A chilling wind howls through the desolate peaks. In the white wasteland, life is a constant struggle for survival. A colossal white serpent, a creature of nightmare. It moves with impossible grace, its hunger capable of consuming entire glaciers. The gray bear, a beast whose every movement shakes the very earth. Its roars echo like thunder, a harbinger of seismic destruction. And the vile rat, a blight upon the frozen oceans, poisoning all it touches. But the true terror lies not in the beasts themselves. An emperor, his eyes wide with the horrors he witnessed, once spoke of a greater threat. He warned that the most dangerous thing in this frozen expanse is the land itself. The white wasteland erupts. A deafening explosion of ice and fury. The ground trembles violently. Screams are lost in the maelstrom. Shards of ice explode outward. A chaotic symphony of destruction. The very air crackles with raw power. Amidst this elemental rage, a fierce battle unfolds. A monstrous, fur-covered limb slams down with cataclysmic force. A sickening tear echoes through the frozen air. A pained cry, quickly choked by an enraged roar. A creature, its form obscured by snow, reels from the impact. A swift, decisive strike. A weapon, crackling with icy energy, descends. The frigid peaks surge with power, fueling the decisive blow. The clash of combatants, amplified by the raw energy of the wasteland. Amidst the swirling snow, a massive, fur-clad warrior stands, the aftermath of a brutal fight evident. A shadowy, scorpion-like creature looms above. The warrior lets out a guttural cry of exertion or defiance. The vile rat, Alara, is tossed violently by a monstrous limb, landing near the creature. She scoffs, only a barbarian would proudly wear their ignorance like that. Alara muses, her eyes narrowed in disdain, how much longer do I have to hang around these ignorant brutes? Greta, her expression innocent and curious, tilts her head. What's ignorant? Is it something you can eat? She then dismisses the thought, never mind. The atmosphere shifts. A faint, chilling wind blows through the desolate landscape. The sound of frantic, ravenous eating fills the air. The vile rat is stuffing its face voraciously. The unmistakable sound of crunching and tearing as the vile rat continues its meal. Greta's voice, laced with exasperation, cuts through the sound. Didn't I specifically tell you not to eat that because it would kill you? Greta gasps, a look of shock and disbelief crossing her face. Greta continues, her tone sharp with disbelief. It's been less than a week and you already ate it all? The vile rat starts to stammer, a nervous fidget betraying its bravado. The vile rat stammers, looking for an excuse. The vile rat offers weakly, it was a most noble challenge. Greta retorts, and you're saying that like it's something to be proud of. A strange, glistening substance drips from the vile rat's mouth, hinting at the dangerous nature of its meal. A tense silence falls, broken only by the wind. The vile rat looks uncertain. Suddenly, a panicked cry echoes. Gee Greta. A sudden, alarming sound, like a sharp intake of breath or a gasp. A heavy thud, as if someone has collapsed or fallen to the ground. The warrior, now revealed to be the large, fur-clad man, rushes to Greta's side. Greta. What's wrong? Get a hold of yourself. The atmosphere is heavy with dread and urgency. The warrior's voice is filled with alarm. The sound of forceful slaps, as the warrior desperately tries to rouse Greta. Wake up. Gretel. The warrior's desperate pleas continue, shaking Greta. Come on. Get up. A low, distressed groan escapes Greta, indicating a grave condition. The vile rat watches, a look of shock and resigned despair settling on its face. This isn't what. It trails off, realizing the direness of the situation. The desolate, icy expanse of the white wasteland offers no comfort, only a stark, unforgiving reality. A hopeful narrative begins, a world painted with fantasy, a realm of wonder and magic. Driven by this vision, the narrator abandoned their mundane life for an extraordinary journey. The arduous ascent of Earth's most formidable peak was but the first trial. Then, a descent into the planet's core, a journey to the very heart of existence. The narrator stands on a desolate, windswept outcrop overlooking a vast, rocky expanse under a surreal, fiery sky. The air is thick with an otherworldly glow, suggesting a place far removed from the ordinary. The expedition continued to the southernmost tip of the globe, a place of ultimate isolation. Yet, despite these incredible feats, the world remained unchanged, devoid of the magic sought. The harsh truth settled in, reality was a stark contrast to the fantasy envisioned. In the quiet despair of night, a desperate plea was whispered into the void, a wish to awaken within a dream. Then, as if answering the fervent prayer, the world shifted, and the dream began. The blinding light recedes, revealing a cosmic panorama, a testament to the answered prayer. The universe unfolds in a breathtaking display of light and color. The sounds of a new world, a cold, metallic scraping, punctuate the silence. The scraping continues, a harsh, grating sound echoing in the frigid air. A gruff voice breaks the silence, lamenting the biting cold and the sheer folly of their mission. Another voice, weary and resigned, advises to bundle up tighter, lest they freeze. The response is a subdued affirmation. One of the travelers voices their concern, calling the expedition plain foolish, despite the promise of great reward. The mention of crossing the white wasteland elicits a stark accusation of insanity, met with a curt command for silence. The captain's voice cuts through, reminding them of their prior agreement. A defeated admission follows. They had agreed, but never anticipated such brutal conditions. A frustrated groan and the sound of metal grinding on ice. Their complaints about the cold are a testament to their suffering. A polite clearing of the throat interrupts the grumbling, drawing their attention. A refined gentleman addresses one of the travelers, his tone courteous and concerned, inquiring about their well-being. Malina, a young woman with striking blue hair and an ornate, fur-lined cloak, smiles serenely. The camera focuses on her upper body, adorned with a brooch and a dark blue ribbon. The background is softly lit, with shimmering particles hinting at a magical ambience. The label Malina, Akasha family is displayed. Malina's inner turmoil surfaces as she claims, "I'm fine," while a starkly contrasting thought, "Damn it. I'm gonna freeze out here," is voiced. Inside a carriage, a stern-faced gentleman glares out at a hooded figure struggling in the snow. A thought bubble expresses his indignation, "How rude of him." Malina, her expression empathetic, gently refutes the gentleman's sentiment. "Don't be too harsh," she advises, "they're the only ones willing to escort us across the white wasteland." Malina's concerned gaze is captured, her blue hair dusted with ice. The thought that prompts her next statement is still forming. Malina's concern for their guides is evident as she asks, "Still, shouldn't we bring them inside now?" They look absolutely frozen. Two figures, cloaked and hunched against the blizzard, struggle through the snow. One lets out a guttural cry of exertion, UGH. The gentleman in the carriage firmly rejects Malina's suggestion. "And oh," he states, "you know what dwells in the white wasteland." A close-up on the gentleman's face, his expression a mix of weariness and firm resolve. His gloved hand is raised in a gesture of finality. Malina, her brow furrowed with uncertainty, tentatively asks, "Monsters. Right?" Her eyes are downcast, searching for reassurance. The scene is dark and featureless, creating a sense of suspense and emptiness. A grand narrative begins. A long, long time ago, an emperor who wanted to claim the entire world set his sights on conquering the white wasteland. The narrative continues, depicting the emperor's ambition. He led countless warriors and soldiers, as an image shows a regal, crowned figure holding a scepter, surrounded by a sparkling aura. A solemn image of armored soldiers with lances, their backs to the viewer, facing a snow-swept, mountainous landscape. The atmosphere is one of stoic determination. The text continues the emperor's tale, and years later, just as the empire had collapsed and faded from memory. The narrative shifts to the emperor's solitary return. The emperor returned. The emperor's tragic state is described. He had lost all his men, returning alone and broken. He looked decades older and spoke like someone who had lost his mind. A close-up on the emperor's gaunt, despairing face, tears streaming down his aged cheeks. The narrative reveals his words. He said there were monsters in the white wasteland. But the most. The narrative continues, building suspense. Dangerous thing wasn't the monsters. A void of darkness, with only a small, glowing ember-like object and scattered particles, hinting at something unseen and sinister. It was the barbarians. The image shows a silhouette of a person emerging from a blinding white blizzard. Their form is indistinct, but their presence is imposing. The silhouetted figure speaks, their voice echoing with a chilling realization, that's where they were. Malina, visibly unsettled by the tale, dismisses it. It's just a legend, surely. A sudden, sharp metallic clang echoes through the scene, suggesting an abrupt, unexpected event or arrival. The emperor's words carried weight. Many of the monstrous beings he described were later confirmed to exist. A metallic clatter echoes, a stark contrast to the silence that follows. A refined gentleman speaks. And yet, the gentleman states, there's never been a sighting of a barbarian. A sharp, percussive sound slices through the air. Malina, her striking blue hair a stark contrast to the grim surroundings, voices her agreement, her gaze distant. The blizzard rages, obscuring all vision. A sense of unease settles over the group as the wind howls. A somber voice declares, countless tales told, yet none spoke of barbarians. A sharp voice cuts through the storm's din, everyone, stop. A guttural sound emanates from the snow, a tremor of apprehension passing through the guides. Something's there. The guides, bundled against the biting cold, exchange worried glances. What is it? A faint, scratching sound is heard. The blizzard intensifies, the wind whipping snow into a blinding frenzy. The distant landscape is swallowed by the storm. One of the guides, squinting into the white chaos, speaks with frustration. I can't see clearly. A messenger, face contorted in shock and fear, stumbles into view, his words a panicked rush. A sharp gasp of terror escapes him. The refined gentleman, his composure visibly strained, demands, "Spit it out, damn it." The messenger, his voice trembling, delivers a cryptic message. Good news is that it's small. Bad news. A low, rumbling growl emerges from the blizzard, a sound that chills to the bone. It's coming toward us. The messenger's terrified shout is almost lost to the wind. A collective gasp of dread ripples through the group as the realization of imminent danger dawns. A violent tearing sound rips through the air, followed by a sharp, metallic clang, as alarm bells begin to ring. A guard, his eyes wide with disbelief and horror, voices the question on everyone's mind. A human? The desolate white wasteland stretches out, an unforgiving expanse. The sky above darkens ominously. A guttural, inhuman roar echoes across the barren landscape, a harbinger of the approaching terror. A monstrous silhouette begins to materialize from the swirling snow, its form indistinct yet undeniably menacing. The looming figure, shrouded in the blizzard, casts a terrifying shadow over the frozen plains. The air crackles with an ancient, raw power. The approaching figure is revealed, a colossal warrior, his presence radiating an overwhelming, primal threat. A desperate shout of alarm pierces the air as the imposing warrior emerges from the storm, his gaze fixed on the terrified travelers. A question hangs in the air, spoken by a weary traveler, a barbarian? The harsh winds of the white wasteland whip snow around the emerging figure. A sudden, unified gasp of shock erupts from the travelers as the imposing figure fully reveals himself. The newly arrived barbarian, Keatle, speaks with an unnerving casualness. I came out for a stroll cause I was sick of looking at other barbarians, and here I find outsiders in the snow? His gaze sweeps over the surprised group. Keatle's voice, laced with amusement, cuts through the blizzard. What luck. A guttural sound emanates from Keatle, a chilling indicator of his inhuman nature and the primal danger he represents. Keatle continues his observation, his tone casual yet unsettling. I didn't expect to run into anyone out here. A nameplate materializes, introducing the imposing figure, Ashen Barbarian Keatle. He bows his head slightly, his expression unreadable. Pleased to meet you. Keatle's eyes, sharp and observant, scan the weary travelers, lingering on their carriage. Keatle's gaze falls upon the guards. Are you a merchant? He asks, followed by a probing question, and you're their hired guards, I take it? A gruff guard confirms Keatle's assumption, his voice tinged with unease. That's right. Keatle offers a cynical piece of advice, his tone dismissive of its potential impact. I'd suggest turning back, though I doubt you will. The guards react with a palpable sense of dread as Keatle's attention shifts. Keatle's smile widens as his keen eyes detect movement within the carriage. Ah. Someone's in the carriage, isn't there? Mylina, inside the carriage, reacts with a sharp intake of breath and a gasp of alarm. Unexpectedly, Keatle shifts his approach. I'd like to be hired too. The refined gentleman, flustered and suspicious, questions Keatle's sudden offer. The gentleman's disbelief is evident. What? Keatle repeats his proposition, his tone carrying an implicit challenge. Was that unclear? Ethereal, almost melodic sounds begin to weave through the howling wind, adding an unsettling layer to the tense atmosphere. Keatle clarifies his offer with an air of ancient authority. I'm offering to help you cross the wasteland. A barbarian from the legends is asking to join us. Mylina cautiously voices the group's unspoken concern, her expression a mix of fear and hope. Is that really all he wants? So you're not hostile? Keatle lets out a dismissive scoff, his confidence radiating. Keatle's response is chillingly pragmatic, his eyes holding a predatory glint. If I were, you'd all be dead already. The guards exchange worried glances, the implications of Keatle's words sinking in. A heavy silence descends. A younger guard, his voice trembling with disbelief and fear, turns to his superior. See Captain. A close-up on Keatle's lips as he speaks, a faint mist escaping. A guard, startled by an unseen sound, whispers to a companion. A lone traveler, Mylina, is shown in profile, her expression distant as she contemplates the situation. Mylina responds, her voice barely audible. One of the guards, visibly unnerved, questions the bizarre turn of events. The guard relays Keatle's audacious demand, then looks to Mylina for guidance. Mylina remains silent, her gaze fixed, processing the unexpected proposal. The refined gentleman, dismissive of the warnings, poses a rhetorical question about engaging Keatle. Another guard, with apprehension, advises against confrontation. The first guard emphatically seconds the advice, leaving no room for doubt. Mylina makes her decision, her voice firm and clear. Mylina's determined expression, the swirling snow mirroring her resolve. A guard nods in acknowledgement of Mylina's command. Keatle, sensing his proposal is accepted, begins to act. Keatle turns, a cold, calculating expression replacing his earlier demeanor. Ketel's statement, confirming Mylina's acceptance. A subtle, predatory smile plays on Ketel's lips. Ketel's casual, yet unsettling, acknowledgement of the agreement. Ketel's confident declaration, met with apprehension from the guards. A guard flinches as Ketel dismisses them, his tone unwavering. The guards recoil as Ketel makes his next pronouncement. Ketel addresses the remaining guard, his gaze intense and dismissive. Ketel asserts his need to speak with the leader, his words carrying an implicit threat. A guard, sweat beading on his brow, cautiously warns Ketel against any rash actions. Ketel's chilling ultimatum, his eyes glinting with a dangerous resolve. The wind howls across the desolate white wasteland. A lone figure, Miles, observes the bleak landscape. Ketel, the ashen barbarian, emerges, his presence radiating an unsettling confidence. A guard, voice laced with apprehension, questions the captain. Captain. Is it really okay to let him meet her? The captain, unfazed, replies, the employer already gave her consent. Another guard voices concern. Even so, we're mercenaries. We should stop him somehow. Ketel overhears and scoffs dismissively. Stop that? Seriously? Don't be ridiculous. A sudden, sharp intake of breath from the guards, the silence broken by their fear. A tense stillness settles, the air thick with unspoken dread. A servant or guard rushes to Mylina, his eyes wide with alarm. My lady. What are you? Mylina, despite her inner turmoil, calmly reassures him. Stay calm. The rhythmic, distinct sound of tapping echoes against a door. Talk. Talk. Ketel's voice, measured and resonant, asks, may I come in? A guttural cry of disbelief or horror erupts from an unseen character within the room. Mylina, her face masked, grants permission. Yes, come in. Her quiet permission hangs in the air. Come in. A sharp, terrified gasp echoes as Ketel enters, his presence overwhelming. A primal scream of terror pierces the air, the full horror of the situation unfolding. The scene opens with a stylized title card, hinting at the series' origins. Two distinct figures are introduced, an elder gentleman, appearing anxious, and the imposing Ketel, the ashen barbarian. The elder gentleman's face is etched with fear, his eyes wide and his mouth agape in a silent cry. Mylina's calm voice cuts through the tension, attempting to de-escalate the situation. The elder gentleman recoils, his accusation sharp and incredulous, his hand raised as if warding off a blow. Mylina's inner thoughts reveal the surreal nature of the encounter, grappling with the reality of meeting a figure from legend. A moment of silence hangs in the air, thick with unspoken tension. Mylina formally addresses Ketel, her voice betraying a hint of strain. The sound of a door creaking open is implied. Ketel's reply is polite, yet carries a subtle predatory undertone. His gaze is steady, observing her with unnerving calm. Ketel's perspective shifts, revealing his surprise at the unexpected warmth within the stark interior, a stark contrast to the harsh exterior. Ketel expresses his observation on the remarkable warmth of the space. Mylina explains the source of the warmth, her expression thoughtful as she begins to elaborate. Mylina confirms the presence of magic, her thoughts drifting to its pervasive nature in this world. A soft glow emanates from Ketel, hinting at his own power or influence. Ketel's demeanor shifts to one of seriousness. He issues a stark warning about the dangers of their current location and the slim chances of safe passage. He offers a conditional protection, his words carrying weight and expectation. The gravity of Ketel's proposal settles in. The word condition hangs in the air. A subtle physical reaction from Mylina, a slight flinch, betrays her inner turmoil. Mylina's question is hesitant, her gaze fixed on Ketel as she probes his intentions. Ketel directly states his desire, his eyes sharp and calculating, his intent laid bare. Ketel's request is clear, knowledge of the world beyond the snowfields. He reiterates his desire, emphasizing that the information Mylina possesses is what he seeks. Ketel's predatory smile returns, a subtle yet chilling expression that underscores his request. Mylina repeats his request, her surprise and suspicion evident as she processes his demand for knowledge. Ketel's eyes, now focused and intense, bore into Mylina, awaiting her response. The predatory gleam is unmistakable. Ketel's smile widens, a subtle reassurance in his tone. That's right. It's not a bad deal for you. Mylina's eyes dart nervously, her internal struggle evident. Do I even have a choice in the matter? She exhales softly, the resignation settling in. I understand. Ketel nods, his gaze steady, transitioning from persuasion to a more formal inquiry. Good. Then, what is your name? Mylina hesitates for a moment, then gathers her composure. My name is Milena. She states her full name with a touch more confidence, the title of her house a mark of her lineage. Milena of House Akasha. A low, metallic grinding sound echoes, signifying a shift or a mechanism engaging. Ketel offers a direct and clear introduction. I am Ketel. He extends a hand, his expression one of hopeful anticipation. I look forward to working with you. A splash panel depicting the title of the series in bold, evocative lettering, hinting at the themes of survival and transmigration. The panel is blank, suggesting a transition or a moment of quiet contemplation before the narrative unfolds. Keitel's internal monologue begins, reflecting on his past life. I, who had always yearned for a fantasy world. His past life is juxtaposed with his current reality. Opened my eyes one day to find myself a barbarian in a snowfield. The harshness of his new existence left no room for introspection. There was no time to figure out why. The grim reality of his new world is starkly presented. All that existed here was a terrible, freezing cold and endlessly strong monsters. Survival demanded leadership and constant struggle. To survive, I led the tribe in the snowfield, hunting and desperately holding on. The passage of time became a blur in the endless fight for existence. I don't even know how much time has passed. His overwhelming desire for escape is palpable. For countless years, I have strived relentlessly to escape this dreadful snowfield. A sudden, forceful event interrupts his internal reflection, marked by a percussive sound effect. However, electronic beeps and a sharp sound indicate a system alert or a glitch. A holographic display appears, revealing a critical game-like mechanic. Quest incomplete, you can leave the snowfield upon quest completion. The panel is blank, signifying a pause or a visual transition. Keitel's narration explains the frustrating obstacle he faced. I was unable to leave the snowfield due to an unknown force. Just when I was about to give up on everything. He observes the infrequent visitors from the outside world, a flicker of understanding dawning. Although I have no idea why they would willingly come to such a godforsaken place, people would occasionally visit from the outside. A moment of profound realization washes over Keitel, his expression shifting from despair to a dawning hope. And then I realized. Keitel, the world outside this dreadful snowfield was the world of fantasy and magic I had so longed for. Keitel, a fantasy world. Keitel, from that point on, I began to move beyond mere survival and act in earnest. A holographic interface displays, Quest 295, hunt the lizard within the given time. Keitel, I trampled monsters and completed the quests given to me one by one in order to leave the snowfield. A holographic interface displays, Quest 295. Complete, the next quest will now be given. Keitel, with a single-minded determination to one day get out. Keitel, as long as I'm stuck in this damn snowfield, the information I can get from outsiders is incredibly precious. Melina's worried expression as Keitel's imposing presence looms over her, her hand instinctively reaching for a hidden dagger. The atmosphere is tense. Keitel, but most of the humans I've met so far have either panicked and drawn their blades, or have gone half-mad. Keitel, this time, it seems we can have a proper conversation. How long has it been since I've had someone I can reason with? Keitel, being surrounded by nothing but ignorant barbarians, having a conversation with a civilized person feels like it's healing my mind. A metallic clanking sound effect. Keitel, it seems you're transporting weapons. Melina appears surprised, her eyes widening slightly. Melina, oh, yes. How did you know? A faint clanking sound effect. Keitel, I can hear the sharp clang of steel from the wagons. How could I not know? Melina's composure falters for a moment. Melina, is that so? A subtle sound effect of shifting. Keitel, is there a war going on in the outside world? Ah, yes. Melina answers with a somber expression. Melina and the kingdom are currently at war. Keitel, I see. So the outside world isn't exactly peaceful either. Melina, no, it isn't. Melina explains the conflict. Melina, the massive empire is pushing forward with overwhelming numbers and supplies, but the kingdom is not easily pushed back. Melina gestures subtly. Melina, that's because the sword master and the hero are protecting the border. Keitel's brow furrows in confusion, his gaze sharp and questioning as he processes Melina's words. Keitel, a hero? A sword master? What kind of? Melina, noticing Keitel's lack of understanding, probes gently. Melina, Sir Keitel, are you perhaps unfamiliar with mysteries? Keitel, I've never been outside of this place. Well, I don't know the details myself, but... Melina, there exists a power in the world known as mystery. The vast, desolate white wasteland stretches endlessly, a stark backdrop to Melina and her wary people. Melina listens intently as Keitel explains the rarity of sensing or using the power known as mystery. Keitel elaborates, defining the third rate as those who can merely sense the power of mystery. The explanation continues, introducing the next tier of power, the second rate. From the second rate onward, individuals can actively wield mystery, with the first rate capable of manifesting it. The first rate manifests mystery as mana or aura, common among knights, mages, and spirit summoners. Beyond the first rate, ranks become inadequate to describe beings who transcend human comprehension. These are the transcendent, beings of immense power who freely wield mystery, capable of shaping reality itself. Keto reveals that a sword master falls within this transcendent rank. He then introduces the ultimate echelon, the hero, beings who influence the very fabric of the world. A hero is more than a title, it is an existence woven into legend itself. Keto muses that even having a rank signifies power, with even a third-rate being formidable in their domain. Malina gazes at Keto, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes as the weight of his words settles. A sudden, intense longing escapes Keto. I want to meet them. Malina, startled by his outburst, questions him, Sir Keto. Weariness clouds Keto's face as he confesses, I can't even remember how long I've been trapped in this place. I was just desperate to survive. All I know is that this is a snowfield in the middle of a fantasy world, and that I can't escape. A glitching holographic message appears before Keto, cannot delete scheduled ally. He stares out towards the outside. His gaze drifts to an image of the vibrant fantasy world, a stark contrast to his reality. The fantasy world. I really want to get out of this snowfield. The weariness on Keto's face recedes, replaced by a simmering resolve. He clenches his jaw. A subtle, almost imperceptible smile touches Keto's lips as he utters a firm, "No." The smile widens into a determined grin, his eyes beginning to glow with an inner fire. I must get out. Keto's expression shifts, a powerful, unwavering resolve now burning in his eyes. The despair is gone. He meets Malina's gaze, his eyes alight with a new purpose, hinting at a profound internal shift. The ashen barbarian stands resolute, no longer a victim of his fate, but a force determined to forge his own path. The harsh creaking of the wagon echoes through the desolate white wasteland as it traverses the snow-covered terrain. Sir Keto, Malina's voice cuts through the wind, are you truly a barbarian? Keto's stoic expression suggests the label is not entirely inaccurate. It wouldn't be wrong to say so. Judging by your reactions, you seem to be aware of my existence. Keto observes Malina, his gaze sharp, acknowledging her awareness of him and his self-proclaimed nature. Yes, Malina replies softly, her eyes wide with a hint of surprise, because of the legend. Keto raises an eyebrow. A legend? About me? Keto's expression shifts, a flicker of amusement and surprise crossing his features as he processes Malina's words. A playful, almost teasing tone enters Keto's voice. Ah, you didn't know? He finds it amusing that she is unaware of the stories surrounding him. A distant sound, perhaps the creak of the wagon or a shifting of the snow. The muffled sound of the wagon continuing its journey. Keto lets out a hearty laugh, a stark contrast to the bleak surroundings. Haha, so that's how the story goes, an emperor. Was that bastard an emperor? I just thought he was a madman. Malina looks taken aback by Keto's reaction. Pardon? Keto quickly dismisses it. No, it's nothing. Keto's expression turns more serious, his amusement fading as he speaks with newfound conviction. Your legend is probably correct. Beings like that have come here before. Keto's gaze shifts to the convoy of wagons, his curiosity piqued. Is that so? By the way, judging by the number of wagons, it seems you're transporting a rather large quantity of weapons. Is there any reason for you to pass through this snowfield? Malina hesitates, a look of apprehension crossing her face as Keto's sharp observation hits home. Her voice is small, burdened with worry. We need a lot of money. A soft, almost desperate exhale from Malina. Keto presses for details, his tone still probing. For what reason? Malina, gathering her resolve, begins to explain. Our family has been in the commerce business for generations. She looks down, a shadow of past prosperity and present hardship in her eyes. We accumulated a great deal of wealth, but due to the sabotage of those around us who were jealous, we are now heavily in debt. Malina's gaze hardens with determination as she looks ahead. This merchant's journey is to prevent the downfall of our family. A dramatic flashback to the past wealth of Malina's family, depicted by a lavishly dressed merchant amidst a shower of gold coins. Keto connects the dots, his analytical mind piecing together the clues. A merchant's journey to settle a debt. In that case, you must be planning to sell weapons to the kingdom that is at war with the empire. Malina's eyes widen in surprise, her hand involuntarily rising to her chest. Yes. How did you? Keto calmly lays out his reasoning, his logic irrefutable. You just said that the empire is pushing forward with overwhelming numbers. If that's the case, the empire wouldn't have any problems with its weapons supply. If not the empire, then the kingdom must be the one in need of weapons. He continues his deduction, painting a clear picture of the economic reality. When supply is low in a place with high demand, the price naturally goes up. I don't know the values of the outside world, but an amount like that must be worth quite a bit. Worth risking your life to cross the snowfield for. Malina stares, overwhelmed by Ketel's astute assessment of her situation and the geopolitical landscape. Ketel's gaze sharpens, the final piece of his deduction falling into place. Seeing as you're trying to cross the white snowfield, there must be no other way to get to the kingdom, right? Does your territory's border happen to touch the... Malina's eyes widened, a gasp escaping her lips as Ketel confirmed her understanding. Whispers of disbelief rippled through Malina's retinue. The legend of the Ashen Barbarian painted him as a brute, not a scholar. A chill ran down Malina's spine as she met Ketel's gaze. His words had unsettled her profoundly. Who was he, truly? The caravan shuddered violently. A sudden, jarring impact disrupted the tense silence, mirroring Malina's growing unease. Silence. The air crackled with an unseen energy, the sudden stillness before chaos. Malina braced herself. A piercing screech echoed. From the shadows, a brutal force erupted, shattering the peace and striking with terrifying speed. Power. Raw and overwhelming, it surged through the area, a visceral display that dwarfed all previous understanding. Dust and debris swirled. In the heart of the maelstrom, a figure moved with impossible grace, a whirlwind of destruction. A choked gasp. A figure crumpled, overwhelmed by the sudden, devastating onslaught. This was not the enemy they had prepared for. Ketel's gaze hardened, a flicker of disdain in his eyes as he surveyed the fallen attacker. His power had made its statement. Ketel's voice, calm yet carrying an ominous weight, cut through the chaos. The true threat had arrived. A chilling, inhuman cackle echoes from the encroaching darkness, accompanied by the emergence of a monstrous, pulsating form with malevolent glowing eyes. A guard cries out in terror as the monstrous entity looms over them, its shadowy tendrils extending. The sight of the creature overwhelms a guard, who recoils in disbelief and fear. Shock and dread ripple through Malina's retinue as the monster's terrifying presence paralyzes them. A terrified cry identifies the approaching horror, black slime. Ketel observes the creature with detached curiosity. Is that what it's called? Malina, her eyes wide with disbelief, confirms the monster's identity. Yes, it's a monster documented in the records. Malina elaborates on the creature's fearsome reputation. Many powerful warriors have attempted to conquer the white snowfield. Few of them returned alive. She continues, those who did wrote down what they saw in books, and among those monsters, black slime is the most frequently recorded. Malina questions Ketel, do you also know about it, Ketelnim? Ketel responds with an unnerving casualness, of course. They're chewy and surprisingly edible. He adds with a slight smirk, they make decent snacks. Malina is stunned by Ketel's revelation. Wha? You eat them? Ketel provocatively challenges her. Thinking of trying one? Then go catch it. Malina falters, unable to respond. The scene plunges into immediate darkness, the atmosphere thick with dread. A heavy thud signals a sudden, violent impact. A piercing, agonizing screech tears through the silence, amplifying the terror. The darkness presses in, obscuring all details. Guards, their earlier shock replaced by primal fear, turn desperately towards Ketel for aid. A guard, on the verge of panic, pleads, Ketelnim. Another guard calls out, her voice laced with desperation. Ketelnim. Ketel's gaze remains fixed and unyielding as he states, I made a contract with you. Silence hangs heavy, Ketel's stoic expression revealing no hint of movement. He continues, his tone firm and absolute. I said I would protect your lives. I have no intention of moving unless there's real danger. Malina stares at Ketel, utterly bewildered and horrified by his words. What? What do you mean? Malina observes the approaching threat, her words betraying a detached confidence in her guard's capabilities. Ketel, a knowing smirk playing on his lips, declares his intent to gauge the current power level of the outside world. A guttural exclamation of fear from a guard. The grotesque, pulsating form of a black slime lunges forward, its tendrils dripping with menace. The convoy's defenses are overwhelmed as the monstrous black slime crashes into their formation, crushing vehicles and sowing terror. A guard, his face contorted in terror, cries out for help as the viscous darkness encroaches. A soldier instinctively raises his shield against the onslaught, his face a mask of desperate resolve. Under attack, a soldier shouts a defiant yes, as he braces for impact. A desperate cry as a guard's shield takes the brunt of a monstrous blow. A guard groans in pain, succumbing to the viscous tendrils of the black slime. The thunderous impact of the black slime against the convoy's defenses. A soldier cries out in agony as the slime's amorphous mass overwhelms him. A desperate scream of pain as a warrior is engulfed by the black slime. Amidst the chaos, the black slime's monstrous form continues its relentless assault. A warrior unleashes a powerful strike, a dazzling display of skill against the monstrous entity. A soldier cries out, the metallic clang of weapons striking the slime echoing through the battlefield. A soldier recoils, his weapon striking the black slime with a sickening squelch, disbelief etched on his face. The black slime recoils slightly, its pulsating form momentarily disrupted by the attack. A swift, decisive blow, the flash slice technique, strikes true against the monstrous creature. Ketel's strategic command rings out, black slimes only move in straight lines. Scatter and coordinate. A soldier, spurred by Ketel's insight, charges forward with renewed determination. Another soldier heeds the command, shouting yes, as they adapt their strategy. The sharp impact of a weapon against the black slime's resilient form. Soldiers, following Ketel's advice, scatter and coordinate their movements, their weapons striking the slime in a rapid, tactical barrage. A warrior skillfully dodges a lashing tendril, their weapon poised for another decisive strike against the black slime. A sudden, blinding flash erupts as the soldiers initiate their coordinated assault. The black slime lets out a guttural roar, its multiple eyes glowing with malice as it recoils from the initial attack. Soldiers, now moving with purpose, weave through the swirling projectiles of the slime, their movements fluid and desperate. The monstrous entity bellows in fury, its amorphous form lashing out in chaotic, yet predictable, straight lines. The harsh, barren landscape of the white wasteland is churned by the violent confrontation. A piercing shriek escapes the slime as a well-aimed blow strikes true, momentarily disrupting its cohesion. Another blinding flash, this one accompanied by the sound of a concentrated energy surge, marks the escalating offensive. One of Mylina's soldiers exhales sharply, their body tensing for the next maneuver. The soldiers, energized by Ketel's insight, launch a flurry of calculated strikes, their weapons finding purchase. The viscous form of the slime writhes and contorts under the relentless assault, its integrity failing. A soldier's weapon slices through the slime's mass, leaving a shimmering trail. Confusion and pain emanate from the slime as its multiple pseudopods are battered, unable to adapt to the coordinated evasion. A soldier's voice, a desperate command, echoes, "Don't stop, keep attacking." The white wasteland is a blur of motion and energy as the battle rages on. A decisive strike lands, shattering a portion of the slime's mass. A soldier shouts in frustration, realizing their current strategy is insufficient against the resilient creature. A realization dawns, simple attacks won't work. A new objective is declared with fierce determination, aim for the core hidden inside. The soldiers' expressions shift from desperation to focused intent, a renewed hope igniting within them. A powerful energy is channeled, culminating in a blinding, focused strike. A soldier lunges forward, their sword cutting through the viscous, purple mass with precision. The slime's form destabilizes further, its internal structure now vulnerable. With a final, decisive thrust, the soldiers pierce the slime's hidden core, unleashing a torrent of light. The black slime dissipates entirely, its remnants scattered across the snow-covered terrain, marking a hard-won victory. A crimson core shatters with a sharp crack. A low, guttural sound emanates from the advancing black slime. The swirling, dark mass of the black slime begins to engulf the convoy's wagons. The black slime pulsates and writhes, its form shifting ominously. A soldier, overwhelmed by terror, lets out a stifled gasp. One soldier, bewildered but relieved, exclaims, "We won." A soldier cries out in disbelief and fear. Another soldier, catching their breath, murmurs, "We did it." Ketel observes the scene with detached indifference. The rhythmic scraping sound of something moving through snow. The snowstorm intensifies, obscuring visibility. A soldier shouts a warning, "Stop. It's a monster." A soldier directs the attack, aim for him on the neck. A sword slices through the air with a sharp clang. The white wolf lunges, its eyes burning with a predatory red glow. A blow connects with a solid thud. The sound of impact as a weapon strikes the wolf's hide. The white wolf roars in pain and fury. Mylina, breathing heavily, remarks, "The white snowfield isn't as Showhill isn't as rumored after all, Captain." The whoosh of wind and snow. A soldier questions, maybe the rumors were exaggerated? Ketel's sharp warning rings out, "Don't let your guard down. We're not even halfway through yet." A blizzard rages, obscuring the harsh landscape. The convoy, battered but not broken, continues its arduous journey, the lingering unease from the recent attack palpable. A soldier, hooded and observing the surroundings, voices his unspoken doubts about Ketel. He dismisses the monster as mere legend, questioning the true nature of the threats they face. The same soldier continues his cynical assessment, viewing Ketel as a burden rather than an asset in this unforgiving environment. His suspicion solidifies into a proposition, a test is necessary to ascertain Ketel's true capabilities. The soldier's gaze hardens, determination etched on his face as he considers his next move. The sound of footsteps echoes through the storm, signaling an approach. Mylina, her expression a mixture of apprehension and curiosity, turns her attention as someone approaches. A questioning look crosses Mylina's face as she registers the unexpected interruption. The wind howls, a mournful sound that mirrors the growing tension within the convoy. A moment of silent contemplation hangs in the air. The harsh winds whip snowflakes around the soldiers, intensifying the feeling of isolation. One of the soldiers addresses Mylina directly, his tone resolute, stating he has something to discuss. Mylina reacts with surprise, the word test catching her off guard. The soldier elaborates, emphasizing the risks they are taking and the contract they uphold as mercenaries. Mylina acknowledges their dedication, expressing gratitude for their acceptance of the mission. The soldier shifts the focus, bringing up the perilous nature of their current objective. He explains that many turned away from this mission, highlighting the loyalty of his current companions, but then states a specific condition he cannot accept. Mylina's eyes widen in shock, her hand flying to her mouth in disbelief. The soldier points out Ketel's complete lack of participation in the fight, highlighting his perceived inaction. He poses a crucial question, requesting permission to test Ketel's worthiness for special treatment. The soldier reiterates his request, his gaze fixed on Mylina as he seeks her agreement. Mylina looks stunned, the proposal of such a test clearly unsettling her. A subtle shift occurs as the soldier takes a step forward, his resolve firm. Mylina sighs, her expression a mix of exasperation and concern, admitting her inability to control her increasingly assertive crew. Ketel smiles enigmatically, a glint in his eyes as he senses the soldier's challenge. Ketel, so you want to test my skills, huh? I don't mind. Ketel, but it's not possible right now. Soldier, what? The blizzard intensifies, obscuring visibility and creating an atmosphere of dread. The soldiers huddle together, uneasy. Ketel, we've got guests ahead of you. A soldier, his voice laced with disbelief and growing fear, stammers, what nonsense are you? A chilling, disembodied voice echoes, the frail mortals outside have arrived. The soldiers exchange terrified glances, the weight of an unseen threat pressing down on them. Their expressions shift from confusion to dawning horror. The disembodied voice, I'll enjoy a rare delicacy today. Ah. Gasps of fear escape the soldiers as they realize the true nature of the danger approaching. A soldier clutches his weapon, his eyes wide with terror. He mouths a silent exclamation of shock. The storm rages, obscuring the landscape. The sound of the wind is a mournful cry, hinting at the monstrous presence emerging from the whiteout. Through the swirling snow, a monstrous maw begins to take shape, its jaw unhinging impossibly wide. The creature's terrifying voice booms, bark for me, mortals. The monstrous wolf's eyes glow a malevolent red, its sharp teeth bared in a predatory snarl. Its massive head lunges forward, overwhelming the frame with its terrifying presence. Mylina's desperate cry echoes as the monstrous white wolf's blinding assault engulfs a soldier. A blinding flash of light. The soldier is lost within the overwhelming power of the wolf's attack. Amidst the chaos, a soldier unleashes a desperate, guttural roar, raising his massive axe. Ketel's voice cuts through the blizzard, resolute and commanding, enough. Ketel stands firm, his gaze steady, declaring with unwavering conviction, these people are my guests. Ketel's stern warning pierces the storm, go back, snake. A disembodied voice, laced with surprise and malice, questions Ketel's defiance. You. Why are you here? The serpentine voice continues, a chilling reminder of ancient pacts. Have you forgotten? The laws of the snow fields? If you stray from your tribe's territory. Ketel dismisses the serpent's pronouncements with cold indifference. That is none of your concern. The serpent's disbelief flares, its serpentine nature revealed in its scorn. Don't be ridiculous. The serpent recoils, its fury palpable. Enraged, the serpent roars its identity and challenges Ketel's authority. I am the snake. Barbarian. The serpent's aggressive pronouncements echo with growing rage. Its voice seething with indignation, the serpent rails against Ketel's audacity. How dare you give orders to me, one who was promised immutability? Ketel's voice is a chilling declaration, a promise of retribution. Then you need to be taught a lesson. A guttural sound of pain and exertion escapes Ketel. The immediate aftermath of a devastating impact. A chaotic explosion of energy. The fierce clash intensifies, a maelstrom of elemental fury. A pained, constricted sound from the serpent as it struggles against Ketel's power. The blizzard rages, obscuring the full scope of the battle. A sharp, percussive sound, indicating a critical strike. The battlefield is consumed by a blinding, chaotic energy. A sharp, explosive sound marks the culmination of the assault. The serpent's final, agonizing scream pierces the tempest as its form is overwhelmed. A devastating explosion of azure energy erupts, fragments of ice and debris scattering outward. The raw power distorts the air itself. A sharp, guttural cry echoes through the blizzard, indicating a powerful, aggressive force. Mylina flinches, her hand raised defensively against an unseen force, her face contorted in pain and surprise. A frantic cry pierces the chaos, my lady. A deep, resonating sound of immense power being unleashed. The earth trembles with a low, powerful hum as colossal forces clash. Ketel's voice, sharp and commanding, cuts through the din, you're the type who only listens after a beating. The battlefield is a blur of white and debris, indicative of a fierce, ongoing struggle. A soldier, eyes wide with disbelief and fear, hesitantly addresses Keatle, K.E., Lord Keatle. Keatle, his gaze intense, assures them, "I'll finish cleaning up and be there." Keatle's calm declaration, a stark contrast to the chaos, "It won't take long." The scene shows a massive, clawed foot stomping down, pulverizing the snow and ice below. A sharp, explosive sound, signifying a powerful impact or the release of energy. The disembodied voice of the snake echoes, a chilling confirmation of their arrival. A sharp cry of pain or shock from one of the soldiers, overwhelmed by the unfolding horror. Another sharp exhalation of shock, reflecting the disbelief and terror of the witnessing soldiers. The swirling snow and distorted landscape indicate the immense, unseen forces at play. A sudden, violent surge of energy accompanied by a sharp impact sound. The image depicts a powerful, unseen force ripping through the snow and air. The air is thick with power, the snow violently disturbed by an overwhelming presence. A sharp, tearing sound as something immense splits the air, accompanied by a blinding burst of light. Sounds of distress and fear erupt from the soldiers as the monstrous maw of the white wolf reveals itself. The sheer scale of the creature's emergence creates a concussive wave, throwing snow and ice. A series of booming impacts and the guttural roars of a titanic battle. Keatle is clashing with his unseen opponent. A blinding flash of light engulfs the scene, followed by the lingering shimmer of immense, spent power, and a violent tearing sound as the battle concludes. The blizzard howls, a furious curtain of white obscuring all sight. Snowflakes sting the air, a relentless assault on the senses. Manga title and credits. A soldier, terror etched on his face, confesses his sin. His plea for mercy is desperate, a raw cry against the storm's fury. Keatle's gaze is steady, his words offering a strange comfort. He acknowledges the fear, the natural distrust of a stranger. Watermark. The chilling sound of the wind, a constant, unnerving presence in the frigid landscape. The blizzard intensifies, visibility dropping to mere feet. The world is consumed by a blinding white void. The wind shrieks with renewed ferocity, a violent gust that forces a soldier to brace himself, gasping against its power. A palpable cold grips the air, the harsh bite of the blizzard felt even through layers of fur and thick cloth. Keatle's expression is unreadable, his eyes holding a depth that hints at secrets yet untold. Keatle's tone shifts, a subtle intrigue entering his voice. He expresses a curiosity that cuts through the harshness of their situation. Malina looks taken aback, her expression a mixture of surprise and uncertainty. Keatle's observation has clearly caught her off guard. Keatle studies Malina, his gaze sharp. He notes the disparity between her refined appearance and her stated role, sensing more beneath the surface. The question hangs in the air, probing the motivation behind Malina's presence on such a perilous journey. A moment of anticipation. Malina takes a breath, her resolve hardening. She reveals her lineage, the truth of her identity. Keatle registers the information, his brow furrowing slightly. He seeks confirmation of Malina's status, a detail that frames her story. Malina's voice carries a weight of sorrow as she describes her mother's fate, a political pawn, used and discarded without agency. The image shows a woman cradling a baby, her posture conveying a deep sense of helplessness. Malina's narration paints a picture of her mother's powerlessness. Keatle's response is simple, but his quiet acknowledgement suggests he is processing the gravity of Malina's family history. Malina's hands clench, the sound of fabric rustling. She speaks of their true status, the hollow pretense of family, and the harsh reality of being treated as servants. A flicker of regret crosses Malina's face. She realizes she has shared more than she intended, a moment of vulnerability in the storm. Her expression shifts, a determined glint in her eyes. Malina declares her voluntary involvement in the dangerous trade mission. Keatle's surprise is evident. He looks directly at Malina, seeking to understand the conviction behind her statement. Malina affirms her choice, her gaze fixed. She acknowledges the peril, the life-threatening nature of the journey she embraced. Malina's eyes hold a fierce determination, her purpose clear. She volunteers because someone must act, must set an example for others to follow. A smug smile plays on Keatle's lips as he observes Malina. The faint glow suggests he's assessing her with keen insight. Keatle directly addresses Malina, acknowledging her sharp intellect. Malina reacts with surprise, caught off guard by his observation. Keatle continues, sensing Malina's deep-seated ambition. Malina flinches slightly, her facade faltering under his perceptive gaze. Malina gasps, her body recoiling as Keatle's assessment hits home. The sounds of her reaction are sharp and sudden. Keatle turns away, his expression thoughtful, having clearly struck a nerve with Malina. The harsh blizzard has passed. The air is still and quiet, a stark contrast to the recent storm. The ground, once snow-covered, is now a lush green, hinting at a miraculous change. The word hangs in the air, a testament to their sudden and inexplicable arrival in a new, tranquil environment. A serene landscape unfolds, bathed in warm sunlight. Rolling hills covered in vibrant green grass stretch out before them, dotted with ancient rocks. The bright, clear sky and the gentle light create an atmosphere of peace and safety, a stark juxtaposition to the dangers they faced moments before. Mylina's voice is filled with wonder as she touches the soft grass, disbelief warring with relief. The sun shines brilliantly, illuminating the verdant landscape. The light sparkles on the grass, creating a magical, almost ethereal, glow. The scene is one of profound natural beauty, a welcome sanctuary after their harrowing journey. The vibrant colors and gentle light signify a return to normalcy, or perhaps a new beginning. Mylina, her eyes filled with respect and a touch of apprehension, addresses Ketil with the title he has earned. She voices her concern for their journey back. Ketil explains his strategy, revealing his confidence in navigating the empire due to the absence of weapons. Mylina understands, her gratitude deepening. Mylina offers a small, hesitant smile, her gaze fixed on Ketil. The newfound respect in her demeanor is evident. Mylina recalls Ketil's earlier observations about her intelligence and ambition, her curiosity piqued. She directly questions Ketil, seeking clarification on his insightful assessment of her character. Ketil reiterates his words, confirming his understanding of her dual nature, intelligence coupled with a formidable drive. Ketil lays bare the precarious financial state of Mylina's once esteemed family, setting the stage for his analysis. Ketil poses a rhetorical question, highlighting the impact of her actions as a concubine's daughter facing adversity. He continues, prompting Mylina to consider where loyalty would lie if she were to proactively secure her future. Ketil directly confronts Mylina with his deduction, her ultimate objective is to reclaim her family's power. He asks for confirmation. Ketil acknowledges the accuracy of her unspoken confirmation with a subtle, almost imperceptible nod. Mylina, caught in her truth, can only acknowledge Ketil's unerring perception. Her silence confirms his statement. Ketil, with a wry smile, reflects on the age-old narrative of an ambitious individual, particularly one of humble birth, striving to ascend and claim their rightful place. Mylina's inner thoughts reveal her surprise at Ketil's intelligence, contrasting him with less perceptive individuals. Her gaze fixates on Ketil, contemplating the immense power he displayed, a power she covets for herself. Mylina addresses Ketil, initiating her proposal to form an alliance should he ever decide to depart the snow fields. The question hangs in the air, a direct invitation from Mylina for Ketil to join her. Ketil politely declines, stating his commitment to unfinished matters within the snow fields. Ketil acknowledges Mylina's acceptance of his decision, a subtle shift in the atmosphere. Ketil offers Mylina a memento, an intricately crafted object, as a token for her journey. He instructs her to present the item to the Akasha family if she finds herself in the outside world. Ketil accepts the gift, recognizing its significance and potential future value. Mylina expresses her gratitude for Ketil's generosity and the meaningful gift. A brief, almost imperceptible pause. The weight of their parting hangs in the frigid air, thick with unspoken possibilities. Ketil offers a poignant farewell, expressing hope for a future reunion, a sentiment Mylina readily echoes. The distinct sound of a wagon's wheels creaking echoes, signaling the departure of Mylina's convoy. The rhythmic sound of the wagon continues, a steady presence on the path ahead. The scene shifts to a tranquil, sun-dappled forest path, a stark contrast to the harsh snow fields. A lone wagon makes its way along a gentle, verdant path, hinting at a journey to a new beginning. A title card announces a significant time jump, 5 years later, the white snow fields. A sophisticated holographic interface appears, declaring the completion of all objectives and the distribution of rewards. Further system notifications confirm the successful completion of the 784th quest and met conditions. A pivotal message flashes on screen, granting Ketil permission to depart. You may now leave the snow fields. Bathed in an ethereal glow, Ketil stands at the precipice of freedom, his gaze fixed on the beckoning world beyond. Ketil breathes deeply, the air alive with scents he'd only dreamed of. The fragrant smell of grass. The smell of a beast. The smell of a river. Scents I could never smell in the snowy plains. Ketil smiles, a genuine, relaxed expression replacing the hardship etched on his face. Every sense relishes this newfound freedom, a stark contrast to the bleakness he endured. He scoffs, the memory of the desolate wasteland a bitter taste. Ketil turns his back on the frozen hell he escaped, vowing never to return. Ketil steps into a world vibrant with life and possibility. This is the fantasy world he longed for, a realm of magic and wonder. This is a fantasy world. The one I dreamed of even in my sleep, a world of illusions. A world of illusions and the unknown I thought I could never reach. A world of wonder and mystery. Though the starting point went horribly wrong, I survived somehow. Then I shall enjoy this world. Magic and swords. Dragons and elves. The fantasy itself. Without that desire, I would have died long ago. The snowy plain was a hell. Survival demanded more than just the will to live. Ketil's gaze catches a shimmer in the distance. A place of marvels. The distant glimmer resolves into shapes of beings bathed in ethereal light. That must be a village. Finally, a civilized village in this world. I tried to talk to those ignorant barbarians who sleep in dug-up snow about the need for shelter. But they just blinked, not understanding a thing. I deeply miss the systematically structured human villages. What should I say for the first greeting? Should I go with hello? Or traditionally ask, what world is this? Ketil approaches with a confident stride, his gaze fixed on the approaching settlement. Whatever it is, I'll be gentlemanly. A faint, ethereal shimmer hints at the transition from the desolate white wasteland to a vibrant, new world. A magical resonance pulses as Ketil steps into the welcoming realm, the air alive with unknown energies. Sunlight streams through ancient trees, casting dappled patterns on the lush, vibrant forest floor. A sense of serene magic pervades the air. An elder elf, his hand outstretched, prepares to address his people, the very air around him thrumming with ancient power. The elder elf, his voice resonating with authority and relief, proclaims the new sanctuary. Elf villagers. From now on, this will be our home. A wave of joy washes over the assembled elves as they absorb the elder's words, a collective exhale of relief. A joyous exclamation escapes the younger elves as they embrace their new beginning, the energy of their happiness palpable. With renewed vigor, the elder elf encourages his kin to settle in. Everyone, unpack your things. A chorus of cheers erupts from the elves, their excitement for their new home unrestrained. Woo. The sheer beauty and wonder of the elven settlement leave the younger elves awestruck. A young elf, his brow furrowed with a lingering concern, approaches the elder. Elder. The elder turns, his gaze calm yet attentive. What's the matter? Is this place really safe? The elder's expression softens as he reassures the youth. It is. This is an extreme remote area. Humans can't come here. The younger elf nods, acknowledging the elder's words. Yes. I know that part as well. However, the elder senses the unspoken worry. The snowy plains are right nearby. You're worried the monsters from the plains might come. It's way too close. The young elf's unease is evident. The elder's eyes hold a timeless wisdom. It's not a problem. For thousands of years, nothing has ever come out of the snowy plains. Besides, we've even placed a barrier just in case. A barrier that obscures Cure's presence and makes this place look like an ordinary forest. We barely managed to implement it after designing it for months using ancient elven magic. As long as this barrier exists, outsiders can never approach us. And even if the monsters of the snowy plains do come, it doesn't matter. Because we have Her Majesty the Queen. No matter what kind of monsters they are, they will never be able to reach our Queen. A serene, otherworldly presence emanates from the elder as he speaks of the Queen's protection, a silent promise of safety. Soft, glowing motes dance in the darkness, hinting at the magic of the new dawn. Ketil reaches out, his hand brushing against something intangible. A faint sensation, like a torn veil. Puzzled, Ketil questions his senses. Had he touched an unseen boundary? Lost in thought, he gazes at the vibrant forest ahead. Anyway, how far do I have to go? Ketil walks through the lush greenery, his steps echoing softly. The path forward is unclear. A rustle in the undergrowth. Ketil pauses, his senses on alert. The sound fades, leaving only the gentle hum of the forest. A soft sigh escapes Ketil. The transition to this new world is disorienting. His gaze falls upon a small, delicate figure. An elf? Ketil marvels at the sight. A real elf. One of the most iconic races of any fantasy world. A flicker of surprise and optimism crosses his face. I didn't expect to meet one this soon. What luck. A wave of gratitude washes over him. I feel glad to be alive. The child clutches her hands, her large eyes wide with fear. She looks around, lost and alone. Her whimpers fill the air. I'm scared. I don't know where I am. Her tiny voice trembles with distress. What do I do? I must have wandered too far. The child freezes, her eyes widening further as she senses something. A choked gasp escapes her lips, a sound of pure terror. Ketil steps forward, his voice gentle, trying to reassure the distressed child. Hello? The air grows heavy. A palpable sense of dread descends upon the clearing. Ketil's eyes widen in alarm as an unnatural darkness seems to emanate from the shadows. A terrifying presence looms, unseen but felt. The forest itself seems to recoil. Ketil stumbles back, instinctively shielding the child. A cold dread seeps into him. A sharp, tearing sound rends the air, followed by the frantic flight of birds. The sudden burst of activity signifies the arrival of an imminent threat. Ketil, now holding the trembling child, stares into the unseen danger. The forest falls silent, holding its breath. Keatle cradles the unconscious elf child. He reflects on his inability to connect with her before her sudden collapse. Keatle ponders his predicament. I haven't even had a proper conversation and she suddenly fainted. His thoughts turn to action. Since it's come to this, should I take the child to the village? Keatle's expression is pensive as he weighs his options, the unconscious child held gently. He rationalizes, depending on the mythology, elves are generally a gentle race aligned with order and good. If I return the fainted child, maybe. A glimmer of hope appears in his eyes. I'll be welcomed as a kind person. What would it feel like to be welcomed by elves? He admits to a newfound anticipation. I'm quite looking forward to it. A soft rustling sound from the surrounding foliage. The peaceful forest atmosphere is suddenly shattered by panicked elven cries. The serene ambience is broken by sharp, disbelieving shouts. The air is filled with alarm as the elves discover Keatle's presence. A wave of fear washes over the forest. The sanctity of their home has been violated. A frantic elf appears, shouting in disbelief and alarm, "Ah! No way. Even here, a human." A desperate parent cries out, "And oh. My child. You. What are you? How did you Brea? Through the barrier." This is not what I expected. The parent's accusation is laced with terror and confusion. Other elves rush forward, armed and enraged, their faces a mask of suspicion. The mother, reaching out in desperation, cries, "My child." An elder elf, his voice filled with shock and anger, declares, "And away. This is clearly a remote land untouched by humans. How can a human be here? There should have been a barrier. How? Elder. There's a crack in the barrier." Another elf points to the impossible breach. "No. Where's Her Majesty the Queen?" The elder demands an explanation for the breach. "Her Majesty is currently away on a brief patrol of the area." Keatle attempts to de-escalate. "I am not your enemy. You there. If you don't return the child, we'll chase you to death." Panic seizes Keatle as realization dawns, my location's been exposed. The elder's voice booms with grave certainty. The barrier was made with ancient elven magic. No mere trick could even let someone approach. The fact it's broken must mean humans came fully prepared. His mind races with fear and uncertainty. How long have they been tracking me? Keatle's eyes widen in a mixture of fear and bewilderment, the weight of his discovery pressing down on him. He wonders if he's being underestimated. Keatle's panicked thoughts race. Do I look like a kidnapper? First, I need to clear the misunderstanding. Keatle cradles the whimpering elf child, his expression one of concern mixed with trepidation. The child's sobs are muffled against Keatle's sturdy frame. He hesitates, observing the surrounding forest. Close up on the elf child's wide, frightened eyes, reflecting the dappled sunlight of the forest. A subtle shimmer in the air hints at unseen magic. Keatle gently sets the child down, urging softly, "Go on, return to your people." The elf child, still trembling, looks back at Keatle, a flicker of hope in her eyes as she prepares to run. The child turns and begins to run, her small legs carrying her deeper into the sun-drenched forest. A sudden, unnatural chill permeates the air. The vibrant green of the forest deepens into shadow. An ethereal glow emanates from Keatle as he senses a sinister presence lurking nearby. He braces himself, a protective instinct stirring. The child stumbles, her gaze fixed on an unseen threat. A dark, amorphous shadow begins to coalesce from the undergrowth. A terrified scream erupts from the child as the darkness lunges. Keatle reacts instantly, scooping her into his arms. Keatle retreats, cradling the now unconscious child. His mind races with his next move, considering the safety of the village. Suddenly, a ripple of alarm spreads through the trees. Elves, alerted by the child's cries, emerge from the foliage, their faces a mixture of shock and outrage. The elder elf, his face contorted in fury, points at Keatle. "How could you breach the barrier?" he bellows, noting the queen's absence. "This must be a human infiltration." Keatle, realizing his position is compromised, tries to de-escalate. "I am not your enemy," he states, holding the child protectively. The elves, misinterpreting his actions as those of a captor, become more agitated. Panicked shouts erupt around him. Keatle mutters to himself, his expression troubled. "Is my face really that scary? I thought it was decent enough back in the snowy plains." He continues his plea, intending to explain his peaceful intentions. "Anyway, I returned the child. Elves, as you can see, I am not your enemy. The hostage has been released." Before Keatle can fully articulate his innocence, the enraged elder elf roars, "Everyone! Attack!" Elven archers, their faces grim, knock enchanted arrows, their bows drawn taut, aiming at Keatle. The sky fills with a deadly volley of glowing arrows as the archers unleash their barrage. Fire! Elves are far more savage than I ever imagined. The elves of legend are supposed to be a gentle people who love nature and seek peace. But these elves are violent and savage. Then again, they are a race that lives in the wild. And nature is a world where only the strong survive. Far from peaceful. It's only natural they'd be ferocious, I suppose. So this is what it's really like. Ting. 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 Ketil walks through the elven forest, his expression thoughtful as he observes the surroundings and the distant sounds of skirmishes. The elves attack with a barrage of arrows. One shouts, what kind of artifact is he wrapped in? It has to have a limit. Keep attacking. Ketil remains unfazed, a hint of resolve in his stance. Calm. A faint shimmer of energy surrounds Ketil as the arrows approach. A soft, ethereal glow emanates from Ketil, shimmering around him like a protective aura. The forest around Ketil begins to crackle with latent energy, reflecting the growing power within him. The ambient magic of the forest starts to stir, drawn to Ketil's burgeoning power. Ketil's power begins to surge, the ground beneath him trembling with the immense force gathering. An elf cries out in pain and shock as the raw energy begins to overwhelm their senses. Another elf, desperate, commands, deploy the barrier. The ground splits and rocks fly as Ketil unleashes a blinding surge of energy. Elves are thrown back, screaming in panic and pain. Screams of terror echo as the force of Ketil's power expands, impacting the elves and their surroundings. The elven barrier shatters and dissolves under the overwhelming surge of Ketil's power. The forest groans under the strain. A deep, resonant hum fills the air as the ancient barrier succumbs. The very fabric of the forest seems to ripple. The elven barrier, once a symbol of their protection, is now gone, leaving the forest exposed and scarred. The unleashed power casts a stark, bright light, revealing the ravaged landscape. The illusion of safety has been broken. Living within the remnants of a fractured world, now confined to a broken sanctuary. A chilling, echoing sound pierces the serene forest. Unseen forces stir. The elder recoils, his staff falling. Disbelief and horror contort his face. What is this? The ethereal light of the elven sanctuary dims, casting long, ominous shadows. A palpable sense of dread descends. Ketil, his hands clasped in a gesture of peace, stands amidst the chaos. He continues, his voice carrying a desperate plea, am not your enemy. The ancient elven barrier, once a symbol of protection, now cracks and shatters under an unseen force. Dust and debris rain down. The assault continues, but Ketil's aura flares, an incandescent shield deflecting the enchanted arrows. His power grows, a visible surge. A wave of power erupts from Ketil, a blinding explosion of light. The elves are sent reeling, their faces etched with pain and terror. Ketil's voice, laced with regret, speaks, whoops. Maybe. I failed to control my strength. Elves. Flames erupt, engulfing the surroundings in a furious blaze. An immense power is unleashed. The elves cry out in a mixture of awe and terror as Ketil's power consumes the scene. The pristine sanctuary lies in ruins, its illusion of safety irrevocably broken. The raw, untamed nature of its inhabitants is starkly revealed. A deafening roar of energy shakes the very foundations of the forest. The ground trembles as Ketil's might is unleashed. A blinding surge of pure energy rips through the air, the destructive force shattering everything in its path. A fiery inferno consumes the land. Confusion and disbelief paint the faces of the elves as they witness the overwhelming power displayed before them. A delicate strand of golden hair drifts through the air, a stark contrast to the violent scene. A serene sky is visible, yet the sounds of chaos echo. A stunned elven guard, his eyes wide with shock, utters a name of reverence. Why, your majesty? The air crackles with an otherworldly presence as Queen Marzelia arrives, her gaze sharp and commanding. Queen Marzelia, her regal bearing undeniable, surveys the destruction. The inscription reads, Hero of Apai, Queen of the Leaf Clan Marzelia Plushan Karuja. The queen's voice is sharp with accusation. What is going on here? A human attacked us. Marcelia's eyes narrow, a dawning realization chilling her expression. I see. Her gaze sweeps over the ravaged sanctuary, a grim pronouncement escaping her lips. So this place isn't safe either. The once vibrant forest now bears the scars of conflict. The shattered remnants of the elven barrier lie scattered, a testament to the raw power that has been unleashed. Ketil, standing amidst the dust and debris, raises his hands once more in a gesture of supplication. Wait. He pleads earnestly, hoping to be heard above the din. I'd appreciate it if you'd listen to what I have to say. Queen Marcelia's sharp gaze falls upon Ketil, a flicker of surprise, perhaps even recognition, crossing her features. The silent tension hangs heavy in the air. Elder Alara's eyes widen in disbelief as she witnesses Ketil unscathed by Queen Marcelia's attack. Impossible, she gasps, how can he withstand Her Majesty's direct strike? The vibrant, sun-dappled canopy of the elven forest filters through the leaves, casting a warm glow upon Queen Marzelia, who stands poised, an arrow nocked and ready. Her gaze is fixed, an aura of quiet power radiating from her. A young elf, his face a mask of apprehension, confronts Keatle. So, even a powerhouse like you seeks to harm us, he mutters, his voice laced with suspicion and a hint of defiance. Queen Marsilia's lip curls in disgust. A single thought echoes in her mind, a venomous pronouncement: humans are truly disgusting. Queen Marzelia draws herself up, her regal bearing undeniable. I am the queen of the Leaf clan, which is dyed in indigo, she declares, her voice carrying the weight of her authority. Queen Marsilia's eyes narrow as she addresses Keatle, her voice sharp and accusatory. Human. The sound of an arrow being drawn back, a taut string humming with contained energy, fills the air. Marsilia's eyes burn with fury. I will make you pay the price for your greed, she vows. Internally, she questions Keatle's silence. Can she not understand me? But we're obviously communicating in the same language. Keatle tilts his head, a subtle questioning expression on his face. He considers Marsilia's outburst. Is she just ignoring me, then? Or perhaps. Keatle reflects on the disconnect, a faint sigh escaping him. The relationship between humans and elves is just that poor? Well, nothing to be done about it. A flicker of grim recollection crosses Keatle's face. This is one of the things I learned back in the tundra. Keatle's gaze hardens, a spark of determination igniting in his eyes. He murmurs, people will listen once you land a hit. A faint, almost imperceptible glow begins to emanate from Keatle, a precursor to the immense power he holds. The air around Keatle begins to shimmer and distort, a visible manifestation of the power surging within him. A low hum vibrates through the air as Keatle's power intensifies, a gentle, yet undeniable, pressure. A blinding white light erupts from Keatle, momentarily eclipsing the forest and the sky. The sound of cracking and splintering echoes as the ancient elven barrier, once a formidable defense, begins to give way under Keatle's unleashed energy. The barrier shatters with a deafening crack, revealing not a pristine sanctuary, but a scene of disarray and the wild, untamed nature of the elves who inhabit it. Screams of shock and terror erupt from the elves as their barrier is demolished, their pristine sanctuary exposed in its broken state. A guttural roar tears through the air, the primal sound of Keatle's power fully unleashed, a colossal beast of pure blue energy taking form. The rampaging energy engulfs the area, a swirling vortex of power that obliterates the remnants of the ancient barrier. A wave of raw, untamed power washes over the scene, the sheer force of Keatle's transformation causing the ground to tremble. Queen Marzelia recoils, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and awe. The sheer magnitude of Keatle's power leaves her momentarily speechless. The immense energy unleashed by Keatle's beast form slams into Queen Marsilia's energy-imbued arrow, creating a violent explosion of light and force. The forest is plunged into chaos, a blinding white and brilliant blue light consuming everything. Queen Marzelia stares, stunned into silence, at the overwhelming power that has just reshaped her world. An elven elder's hand glows with mystic energy, her expression one of alarm. Keatle, caught in the blast's epicenter, lets out an involuntary exclamation as his power surges uncontrollably. A deafening explosion echoes as Keatle's uncontrolled energy obliterates the ancient barrier. Elves cry out in terror as their sanctuary's defenses shatter, reeling from the concussive force. A gasp escapes an elf as they witness the raw, destructive power unleashed. A moment of stunned silence descends upon the elves as they comprehend the magnitude of Keatle's strength. The elder, overwhelmed, questions his own restraint. Should I have held back even? The elder ponders the true depth of Keatle's power, a strength far beyond his initial assessment. A young elf's terrified gasp pierces the stunned silence. A mysterious observer's voice booms, I understood from that one clash. He's powerful. At least above the level of a transcendent. Why would someone that strong be here? The observer questions, a note of unease in their tone. Queen Marsilia's voice cuts through the pandemonium, her expression grim. Everyone. Get away from here immediately. Elves react with urgency to their queen's command, scrambling to obey. Why, your majesty? Now. The queen's desperate plea to evacuate is met with immediate, panicked compliance. Everyone, flee. Dust and debris settle from the barrier's destruction, revealing the exposed sanctuary. Queen Marzelia confronts Keatle, her voice laced with a chilling acknowledgement. Human. I acknowledge your strength. Marsilia's eyes narrow with defiance. But you will never accomplish your goal here. Keatle, bewildered by the escalating conflict, mutters, no, I was just trying to talk. Huh? I have a feeling this has gone completely sideways. Keatle finishes his thought as Marzelia begins her incantation. I summon thee, thou who holds the essence of primeval purity. Marsilia's chanting intensifies, channeling immense power. I summon thee. Thou who sets the blackest dark ablaze. Come to me. Thou with horns of pure flame. The air crackles with raw magical energy as the summoning ritual reaches its crescendo. Mystical energies coalesce, forming the silhouette of a colossal, horned entity. The ground trembles as the summoned entity begins to manifest. The monsters form a Pigo. emerges from the inferno, its fiery horns blazing and its guttural roar shaking the very foundations of the world. Pico's immense power radiates outwards, the swirling flames and arcane symbols illuminating the chaos of the shattered sanctuary. Ketel's eyes widen, a childlike wonder dawning as he witnesses the surge of magic. Ooh. A summon. A flashback to the White Wasteland. Ketel recalls the terrifying entities that haunted the frozen plains. The creatures in the tundra were grotesque and bizarre. The memory continues, contrasting the few fantastical beings with the overwhelming horde of horrors. There were a few that looked like something out of a fantasy, but most of them were just hideous. The stark difference is clear as Ketel focuses on the being that now stands before him. But this creature before me. The magnificent form of the fire spirit begins to materialize. A bull with horns of blazing fire. Overwhelmed by its grandeur, Ketel exclaims, his past fears replaced by awe. Now that's a spirit. This is a real fantasy. Queen Marzelia, her face a mask of desperation and fury, issues her command. Pico. Annihilate the enemy before you. A powerful aura emanates from Pico. The air crackles with raw energy. Pico's voice booms, laced with disdain for earthly pacts. Humph. As I thought. Contracts aren't worth the trouble. They're nothing but a hassle. Silence. Pico's imposing presence fills the frame, a testament to its immense power. The spirit's voice echoes, filled with ancient pride. Pico. A being that embodies the pure flame. The stronger a spirit, the more ancient it is, and thus the greater its pride. With my own power, I can barely even summon it. Marcelia's strained voice reveals the difficulty of her endeavor. I just managed to secure a contract with the help of another tribe. The unnatural circumstances of the summoning weigh on Pico's consciousness. I never thought I'd summon it under these circumstances. Marzelia, her resolve wavering, pushes forward with her command, while Pico voices its primary contractual obligation. Fulfill the contract, Pico. So, the contract I just have to kill the human before me? Pico pauses, its fiery gaze fixated on Ketel. A flicker of confusion crosses its face. That thing. The raw power of an impending clash ignites the scene. A colossal, bull-like creature, wreathed in flames, materializes with glowing eyes. Its form pulses with immense, volatile energy. A young elf stares in awe, his eyes wide. Amazing. A summoned beast. The young elf, now looking at Ketel, whispers in disbelief. Is this real fantasy? He then notices Ketel and exclaims, a human. They've intruded upon our lands. The elf child, Ketel's captive, nervously questions, yeah. From the swirling flames, the summoned beast's disdainful voice echoes. Humph. A pathetic human dares to covet the races of nature? I've decided. I'll reduce you to ash and leave nothing behind. Ketel stares back, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. Darkness descends, obscuring the battlefield. The summoned beast unleashes a deafening roar as it charges, the ground cracking under its immense power. The beast's hooves pound the earth, radiating waves of heat and energy. A searing blast of fire erupts from the beast. The impact is cataclysmic, shaking the very foundations of the forest. The earth trembles with the force of the creature's movements. The epic clash of titans begins. A massive explosion of energy tears through the landscape. Debris rains down as the battle escalates. A title card appears, hinting at a world of fantasy and barbarians. Ketel grunts in pain as he's thrown back by an unseen force. The summoned beast roars in triumph, its fiery aura intensifying. Ketel stares, bewildered. A surge of raw power emanates from Ketel. Ketel gasps for breath, the strain of the battle evident. The battlefield is a chaotic maelstrom of fire and destruction. A cryptic observer remarks, a beastly form. That puts me at ease. The chaotic energy of the battle continues to rage. Ketel lands a powerful blow, his expression steely. Makes it easier to beat. Ketel's eyes widen in alarm as a young elf, lost and frightened, stumbles towards the sanctuary's barrier. He instinctively reaches out. The barrier shatters with a violent concussive force, shards of energy exploding outwards. The sanctuary's inner sanctum is revealed, not as a place of peace, but of decay. The once grand structures are crumbling, overgrown and neglected. An elder elf, his face contorted with rage, points a trembling finger at Ketel. The younger elves behind him bear crude weapons, their eyes burning with hostility. The elder roars, his voice a torrent of fury and accusation. The elves surge forward. The elves charge, their movements savage and uncoordinated, a stark contrast to Ketel's controlled power. Ketel's protective aura flares, a blinding azure light that pushes back the attackers. The elves cry out in pain and shock as they are repelled by Ketel's power. The shattered remains of their sanctuary rain down around them. Queen Marzelia arrives, her regal demeanor shattered by the scene. Her eyes are wide with disbelief and dawning horror. A colossal bowl-like entity, wreathed in inferno, materializes before Marzelia. This is Pigo. Pigo lets out a deafening roar, a primal sound that shakes the very foundations of the forest. Ketel's power surges, his form dissolving into a colossal beast of pure blue energy, its eyes burning with ancient resolve. Pigo charges, hooves of fire tearing across the ravaged landscape, igniting the remaining structures into a conflagration. The ground trembles and splits as Pigo's fiery charge unleashes a devastating shockwave. The forest is engulfed in a cataclysmic explosion. Debris rains down from the sky as Ketel is thrown back by the immense force of the blast. Marzelia, stunned, surveys the devastation. What? What is this? She whispers, her voice trembling. A wave of raw, unbridled power erupts from Ketel. The air crackles with azure energy. The devastated landscape tells a tale of unimaginable destruction. Amidst the ruins, terrified screams echo, remnants of the battle's fury linger. Pigo, its fiery form flickering, hesitates, its primal instincts confused by the alien energy it faces and the constraints of its earthly tether. Ketel, now regaining his composure, his blue aura pulsing, prepares for the decisive blow. His expression is one of weary determination. The clash of titans sends shockwaves through the world. The ground cracks further under the immense pressure. Marzelia, witnessing the scale of Ketel's power and the destruction it wrought, finally understands the severity of the situation. She falls to her knees. A young elf, barely more than a child, cries out in desperation. Ketel's calm voice cuts through the chaos. I'm not your enemy, elf. As the dust settles, Ketel stands amidst the ruin, his immense power radiating a strange calm. The surviving elves, stunned and terrified, look upon him with a mixture of disbelief and a desperate plea for mercy. Queen Marsilia's eyes widen in shock as she witnesses the aftermath of Ketel's power. The young elf stares in disbelief, her voice trembling with a single, stunned word. A quiet moment of reflection. The elf's perspective shifts, a difficult truth finally accepted. The realization dawns, Ketel was not their enemy, but a protector. With bowed head, the young elf offers a heartfelt apology, acknowledging their haste. Ketel looks on with a serene expression, the weight of their judgment lifting. The young elf's shame is palpable as she confesses their grave misjudgment, mistaking a rescuer for an aggressor. Ketel offers understanding, acknowledging the fear that drove their actions, yet a hint of sorrow lingers. A sigh escapes Ketel as he expresses the lingering sadness of never being given the chance to explain. Hesitantly, the young elf probes, seeking reassurance that Ketel is not among their pursuers. Ketel's gaze is distant as he reveals his complete unfamiliarity with elves, a stark contrast to his homeland. The mention of the White Wasteland elicits a sharp, disbelieving response. A title, whispered with a hint of awe and trepidation, describes Ketel's origin. Ketel confirms the title, a label given by those outside his harsh homeland. The word hangs in the air, an echo of utter disbelief at Ketel's very existence. The young elf expresses her astonishment, the concept of human survival in such a place being unthinkable. A brief moment of quiet contemplation hangs in the air, the shattered sanctuary a stark backdrop. A new concern arises: if Ketel came from the wasteland, could others follow? Ketel's response is measured, casting doubt on the likelihood of anyone else making the perilous journey. Ketel elaborates on the immutable laws of the wasteland, a domain even formidable entities cannot defy. A holographic interface displays a unique designation, Hidden Quest, Servant, revealing the anomaly of his presence. Ketel qualifies his ability to bypass the rules, emphasizing the rarity of such an occurrence. A wave of relief washes over the young elf at Ketel's explanation. Her tone shifts to a more casual, yet still concerned, inquiry about the fate of the formidable summoned creature. Ketel, his face a mask of mild embarrassment, gestures with a hint of awkwardness. The elf reassures him, explaining that spirits, being natural entities, simply return to their realm when forcefully unsummoned. She then asks, a spirit? The young elf's expression softens with a hint of contrition. I've been rather rude, haven't I? Is there anything you'd like? She offers her assistance. If you wish it, I'll do whatever I can. Ketel murmurs, contemplating the idea of a spirit. A spirit, huh? Ketel, looking thoughtful, poses a crucial question, then, can beings other than elves make contracts with spirits? The elf's gaze shifts, a touch of hesitation in her voice. That might not be possible. The elf's expression conveys a subtle unease, her eyes downcast as she considers the implications. She clarifies, of course, among humans, those with a deep affinity to nature can sometimes form contracts. Ketel's hope flickers and dies as he concludes, so it is impossible, after all. A moment of silence, then a hopeful suggestion. If you truly want to contract a spirit, go to Elfo Sagrado. Ketel looks up, a question in his eyes. Elfo Sagrado? She explains with reverence, it's where the god of the elves resides. The holy land of all elves. The scene shifts to a breathtaking vista of the elven sanctuary, bathed in ethereal light, hinting at a sacred and ancient place. Ketel's gaze is fixed on the grand sanctuary, a mix of wonder and doubt on his face. There, it might be possible. A holy land of the elves. Would a human like me even be allowed in? The elf looks up, her expression serious as she contemplates his question. Normally, no. But with my introduction, it should be. She looks at him directly, a sense of urgency in her voice. I'll tell you where it is, but you must keep it to yourself. Her voice is filled with reverence as she describes the sacred place, the holy land of the elves, Eldo Sagrado. It's the dream destination of every elf researcher. The elf's brow furrows with concern, her gaze sharp. But for elves, letting a human near that place is incredibly dangerous. Her expression softens with a hint of vulnerability. To protect a place more precious than life itself, no elf would ever reveal its location. But still. The elf extends her hand, a radiant object held within her palm. A soft glow emanates from it, signifying hope and trust. Her eyes gleam with earnestness as she declares, I want to believe in you. The elf's hand is steady as she offers the glowing token. The elf presents the glowing object to Ketel. Take this with you. A young elf offers a glowing token of trust to Ketel, her hand extended in a gesture of hesitant hope. The worn stone beneath them speaks of ancient foundations. Young ELF, I'll accept it with thanks. Ketel, of course, even if you get close. The imposing figure of an elf, adorned with dark antlers and radiating an ethereal blue light, surveys the scene with an otherworldly glow. The forest around him shimmers with ambient magic. Young ELF, our god may still test you. Young ELF, but I think you'll pass. I wish you luck. Ketel, thank you. Queen Marzelia, regal and adorned with autumnal motifs, introduces herself with a hint of warning in her tone. Her gaze is sharp, assessing. Queen Marcelia, and your name is? Ketel, I am Ketel. Ketel the barbarian. The ethereal glow intensifies, hinting at a powerful presence unseen. A sense of unease permeates the air as the forest seems to hold its breath. Sound, crack. Sound, whoosh. Sound, ah. The serene forest explodes into chaos as a massive, unseen force tears through the trees. A surge of raw power emanates from an unseen source. Sound, whoosh. Sound, ah. Ya. Sound, piyu. Sound, yuung. The earth trembles under a cataclysmic impact. The very air crackles with unleashed energy. Sound, ha. Panicked Guard 1, what was that? What's going on? Panicked Guard 2, we don't know. Guard 3, something is approaching. A guard recoils in shock as a warning flashes, border of the Varican territory kingdom of Gihent. Guard Captain, sound the bell. Call all guards to arms. The head guard of the Varkan territory surveys the unfolding chaos, his expression grim. A guttural roar of an unseen force shakes the very foundations of the land. A chilling warning echoes, enemy. The ground trembles violently. From the unleashed energy, a figure of immense, primal power begins to materialize. Panic flares as the guards report an approaching, devastating threat. One of the terrified guards stammers out a shocked recognition. Ketel's voice, tinged with curiosity, addresses the approaching figures. HM. Are you guards? Ketel, radiating a relaxed aura despite the chaos, offers a disarming smile. Nice to meet you. A guard's unspoken confusion hangs in the air as he observes Ketel. Two guards advance cautiously, their focus entirely on Ketel. One guard, wide-eyed, voices his suspicion. That loud noise just now, was it this guy? Another guard registers a key detail. Ash-gray hair. A chilling realization dawns on a guard as he notes Ketel's distinctive chest scar. A scar on the chest, no way. The whisper of recognition spreads through the ranks, a fearful acknowledgement. The Ashen Barbarian? The guards' tense stances betray their growing apprehension. The forest, though recovering, still bears the marks of recent devastation. The sound of Ketel's boot striking the ground. He maintains a calm demeanor. A guard shouts a desperate command, raising his weapon. Stop. The guard captain, firm and resolute, issues a dire warning. Come any closer and we'll attack. Ketel attempts to de-escalate, his voice measured. I would prefer if you calmed down. Ketel reassures them, his expression earnest. I am not your enemy. The captain, still wary but curious, presses for clarification. What is it you seek from us? The faint sound of armor shifting as the guards brace themselves. The crunch of Ketel's feet on the ground, his movements unhurried. The guards stand their ground, their weapons held ready, a stark contrast to Ketel's calm posture. Confusion flickers across the guard's face at Ketel's continued peaceful overtures. A deep, resonant sound emanates from the direction of the kingdom's border, the ground vibrating faintly. A guard, turning towards the imposing stone structure, mutters. The wall. Ketel, his gaze sweeping over the defensive structures, states his intention. I'd like to visit your territory. Keatle, with his imposing physique and a visible axe, stands before the guards. A guard's eyes widen in disbelief and a hint of fear, his expression a mixture of. The ominous title card appears, hinting at the world Keatle has entered. Corrupted world. The title card, living as a barbarian, is displayed with ornate, dramatic lettering. A guard questions Keatle's intent. You said you wanted to visit the territory. So, your goal is to pass through? Keatle replies calmly, if possible, I'd like to stay a while. He adds, I'm not sure how long. The guard, intrigued by the prospect of a prolonged stay, inquires, a stay, huh? Your name? Keatle states his name, it's Keatle. The guard then asks, then, do you have someone who can verify your identity or? Keatle's response is direct, any form of ID? I have no such thing. The guard acknowledges Keatle's lack of identification with a simple, ah. Thank you, Mr. Keatle. An elegant woman in a white cloak presents Keatle with a token, saying, if by any chance you go outside later and visit House Akasha, show them this piece. The token, intricately designed, is revealed in Keatle's hand. Keatle examines the token as the guard produces it from a pouch. The sound of the token being handled is depicted. Keatle looks surprised, asking, this isn't enough to verify identity? The guard clarifies, what is that? It's the crest of House Akasha. I received it from someone of that bloodline. Recognition dawns on the guard's face as he states, if it's the Akasha family, then they must be the merchant family from the Denayan kingdom. The guard elaborates, asking, the one that came to the White Wastelands a few years ago. You know them? The guard, now holding the token, explains, it's a house that's been gaining prominence lately. Their power's grown rapidly since a new head took over a few years ago. Keatle inquires, I see. So can this be used to verify my identity? The guard ponders, Doesn't look fake, but hard to confirm. It's not from this kingdom? The guard states the kingdom's jurisdiction and the token's uncertain validity, this is the kingdom of Gehentra. It can't be confirmed, but it is helpful. Fine, you may enter. But there's a condition. Keatle looks intrigued by the stipulation, a condition. A moment of contemplation passes between Keatle and the guard, the atmosphere thick with unspoken implications. The guard clarifies the condition, we need confirmation. A formal document, possibly a contract, is presented on the table, implying a legalistic agreement. The guard explicitly states the necessary confirmation, that you're not a threat. Keatle muses, seemingly unfazed by the proceedings, A party, is it? The guard, with a weary expression, informs Keatle that 3 other individuals are currently attempting to enter the territory. The guard details the condition, Keatle must clear a nearby dungeon alongside individuals of unclear identity. Keatle, unperturbed, finds the party condition surprisingly easy to meet and readily accepts. The guard interjects with a slight pause, signaling an additional requirement. The guard continues, stating there is one more condition to be met after the dungeon is cleared. Keatle is informed that he must provide a full report of everything that transpired within the dungeon. Keatle deduces the purpose of the conditions, to have individuals with uncertain backgrounds monitor each other. The guard offers a cryptic response, hinting that Keatle's assessment might not be entirely accurate, with a subtle shift in his expression. The guard's gaze sharpens as he poses a direct question, his skepticism evident, are you really a barbarian? Keatle confidently affirms his identity with a calm demeanor. A small, almost imperceptible sound emanates from him. The guard, taken aback, muses on the common perception of barbarians, contrasting it with Keatle's presence. The guard expresses his surprise, admitting Keatle is unlike any barbarian he has ever encountered. Keatle clears his throat, signaling an end to the discussion, and proposes they conclude their talk and proceed. The sound of a door opening is heard. Alessandro groans in frustration, clearly unhappy with the current situation. Alessandro voices his discontent, lamenting the necessity of delving into a dungeon with untrustworthy companions, calling them rats that go after people's pouches. He considers it a tragic turn of events. Kazan Hark, a thief, taunts Alessandro, his expression a mixture of amusement and defiance, asking why he's picking a fight again. Kazan directly addresses Alessandro's anger, referencing a past scam where Kazan robbed him of his entire fortune. He labels Alessandro a bastard. Alessandro reacts with outrage, shocked by the audacity of a petty thief to insult a paladin. Kazan dismisses Alessandro's title with scorn. He questions whether his current attire is what paladins dress like these days. Kazan continues his taunt, stating that a true paladin wouldn't be in their current situation. He asserts that Alessandro is merely a wandering warrior who falsely proclaims himself a paladin. Kazan sneers, his gaze fixed on Alessandro. You're a bottom feeder, just like me. Alessandro, his jaw tight, reacts with disbelief to Kazan's taunts. Kazan mocks Alessandro's name. Tyrannus? What kind of dumbass surname is that? Alessandro's rage boils over as he recognizes Kazan. You. Alessandro clenches his fists, his anger palpable as he confronts the thief who robbed him. Kazan grins, a predatory glint in his eyes. Wanna go? Kazan sneers, appraising Alessandro's worn armor. You think that ragged armor will protect you? Alessandro's expression darkens, the insult about his attire fueling his fury. Alessandro's knuckles whiten as he grips his sword, his patience wearing thin. A sharp, guttural cry of frustration from Alessandro as his temper flares. Hayes, the cleric of Kaloja, hesitantly interrupts the escalating confrontation. Could you? Please stop. Hayes pleads, a sigh escaping her lips as she witnesses the pointless argument. Alessandro and Kazan pause, caught off guard by Hayes' interjection. She exhales in exasperation. Hayes laments her predicament. To think I have to raid a dungeon with him. Will this be okay? The card identifies the newcomer, cleric of Kaloja, Hayes. Hayes informs them of the dungeon requirements. By the way, the minimum number for a dungeon is 4. One more should be coming. Hayes adds, looking towards the entrance. A moment of anticipation hangs in the air as they await the final party member. The sound of heavy footsteps echoes as someone approaches. A brief, stylized depiction of the new arrival's entrance. A guard announces, the last person has arrived. Kazan, peering around, expresses his hope. Oh. I hope this one's actually sane. See for yourself. The imposing figure of Ketil the Barbarian enters, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. Ketil the Barbarian stands before them, his presence commanding and powerful, a stark contrast to the bickering group. The massive barbarian, Ketil, regards the assembled individuals with an unnerving calm. Alessandro and Hayes stand in tense anticipation, their expressions a mix of apprehension and curiosity as they await the arrival of their final companion. The guards observe impassively. Ketil, radiating an aura of relaxed confidence, surveys the scene. His toned physique is prominent, hinting at his barbarian nature. Ketil addresses the guards and the assembled individuals, his question direct and slightly challenging, hinting at his imposing presence. Are you my party members? Alessandro recoils, his eyes wide with shock and intimidation at Ketil's sheer size and imposing physique. He's huge. Hayes, feeling Ketil's overwhelming power, struggles to maintain composure. Alessandro, still stunned, questions Ketil's species. A human, right? Ugh, that pressure. Ketil, unfazed by their reactions, offers a casual greeting. Nice to meet you. Ketil surveys his new companions with a knowing, almost amused expression. His relaxed demeanor belies the palpable tension in the air. Ketil gestures for his companions to begin their introductions amongst themselves. Now then, talk among yourselves. Ketil steps away from the group, indicating his temporary departure. I'll return shortly. A sound of grudging annoyance, perhaps from Alessandro or Hayes, as Ketil steps aside. Kazan Hark, eager to break the ice and perhaps assert himself, initiates the introductions. Let's start with introductions. Ketil, returning and observing the introductions, states his identity with directness. I am a barbarian. Ketil. Alessandro reacts with disbelief and a hint of trepidation to Ketil's self-proclamation, given his imposing stature. You? Kazan Hark, slightly embarrassed but resolute, introduces himself. I am. Kazan Hark. A thief. He then clears his throat as if expecting a reaction. A thief, huh? Ahem. Alessandro, with a more formal bearing, introduces himself. I'm a paladin. Alessandro Tyrannus. Ketil, his gaze piercing, inquires about Alessandro's abilities. As a paladin, do you use holy power? Alessandro admits with a touch of awkwardness his unusual limitation. Well, normally yes. But I'm a rather special paladin, so I can't use it. I see. Hayes makes a startling revelation, shifting the mood with their unique affiliation. I serve the god of lies and deceit. I'm Hayes, a cleric of Kaloja. Ketil acknowledges Hayes' declaration with calm neutrality. A cleric, huh? Nice to meet you. Hayes offers a subtle, knowing smile, hinting at the inherent ambiguity of their chosen deity. Ketil probes further into Hayes' unique situation, questioning the implications of their deity. Even as a cleric, your identity is uncertain? Hayes responds, well, the god I serve is the god of lies and deceit, Kaloja. Hayes explains the social standing of their deity, a subtle acknowledgement of the inherent contradiction. Naturally, he's not well regarded. Ketil processes the information, a thoughtful expression on his face. I see. A mechanical sound, perhaps the door to the dungeon or an entry mechanism, signals the next phase of their quest. The 3 party members stand together, their diverse personalities and backgrounds now evident. The introductions have concluded, and the focus shifts to the task ahead. Ketil, a figure of quiet authority, addresses his companions. If everyone's ready, let's head out. The guard, armored and stoic, observes the assembled group. A moment of tense silence hangs between Alessandro and Kazan, their animosity palpable even in stillness. Hayes, the cleric, looks on with an inscrutable expression, the tension in the air a subtle undercurrent. The air crackles with an unnatural energy as they approach their destination. The landscape shifts, the vibrant and glowing entrance of the dungeon appearing unnaturally bright. The unnatural light emanates from the dungeon's maw, promising both danger and the fulfillment of their task. The guard gestures, his voice carrying the weight of their directive. We've arrived. The guard indicates the imposing structure. Arrived. Kazan lets out a disbelieving breath, the sight before them clearly more than he anticipated. The guard points towards the glowing portal. The dungeon entrance. The group stands before the entrance, a stark contrast to the natural world around them. Alessandro's gaze is fixed on the entrance, his specialized nature perhaps sensing something beyond the ordinary. The guard outlines the task. It's a 3-floor dungeon. The characters' varying reactions are visible, Ketel's calm, Alessandro's guardedness, Kazan's apprehension, and Hayes' veiled observation. The guard elaborates on the perils within. The monsters are undead. A subtle, knowing smile plays on Ketel's lips. The guard delivers the final condition. Clear the dungeon and return with the proof. Ketel addresses the assembled group, his voice carrying a tone of command as he initiates the dungeon raid. Alessandro attempts to address Ketel with formal deference, but Ketel interrupts, establishing a more collegial atmosphere. Ketel laughs heartily, his jovial demeanor contrasting with the grim task ahead. Alessandro, momentarily disarmed by Ketel's informality, hesitates before continuing. Ketel outlines the initial combat roles, he and Alessandro will take the front, while Kazan will scout for traps. Ketel defines Hayes' role as rear support, utilizing her unique abilities. Hayes confirms her understanding with a simple, direct response. With the plan set, Ketel signals the team to advance towards the dungeon entrance. Heavy footsteps echo as the group begins their descent into the dungeon. A faint, irregular dripping sound signifies the oppressive, damp atmosphere within the dungeon. Hayes expresses her immediate disorientation due to the profound lack of visibility. Kazan voices his suspicion, noting the unusual absence of typical dungeon hazards. Kazan abruptly stops, his senses alerted to a presence. Kazan's sharp warning cuts through the tension, monsters. Alessandro questions Kazan's perception, while Kazan points to the grim evidence on the floor, confirming the presence of danger. Kazan identifies the threat, skeletons. Kazan warns, if we get any closer, they'll rise and attack us. As I thought, that damn guard. Kazan's gaze hardens as he reveals his suspicion, the captain knew from the start. This dungeon, it's not just for verifying our identities. Kazan continues, from the beginning, it was just a tool to easily get rid of troublesome outsiders. Skeletons, you say? Ketel ponders, his brow furrowed in thought, his hand resting on his chin. The weight of the revelation settles upon him. Kazan explains the nature of their foe, skeletons are quite strong monsters. He elaborates on their resilience, they keep moving even if they're wounded or their limbs are cut off. And since they're made of bone, their defense is considerable. Ketel acknowledges the escalated threat, this dungeon's difficulty is higher than I thought. Hey, sister. Get your powers ready. Ketel issues his orders, warrior, get your shield up. Ketel, you get ready too. Alessandro braces himself, his posture shifting to one of immediate defense. Kazan declares his strategy, I'll aim for an opening during the fight. He provides crucial tactical advice, a skeleton's body moves even when damaged, so you have to aim for the neck, its weak spot. Plus, they're pretty tough, so you will have to hit them multiple times. Got it. Alessandro gives a curt, affirming response, all right. Ketel's heavy boots plant firmly on the ground, his stance solidifying in preparation. The sharp, dry sound of bones grinding against each other echoes in the chamber. The unsettling clatter of bones intensifies as the undead begin to stir. Ketel utters a surprised ho. As the sheer number of animated skeletons becomes apparent. A sharp, percussive sound as skeletal joints articulate and move. The drawn-out, unsettling creak of ancient bones shifting and moving. A sharp, tearing sound, perhaps of ancient sinew giving way, as the skeletons move with unnatural speed. A burst of spectral energy, bright and ethereal, begins to emanate. Ketel reaches out, his muscles tensing, ready to spring into action. Hayes closes her eyes in concentration, her hands clasped in prayer as a divine light begins to gather around her. The animated skeletons advance, their empty sockets glowing with a malevolent blue light, a tide of bone and fury crashing towards the group. Ketel's immense power erupts as he unleashes a devastating blow. Silence descends as the dust settles, the oppressive darkness of the dungeon swallowing all light. With a thunderous impact, Ketel's strike tears through the unnatural defenses of the dungeon. The force of Ketel's attack reverberates, cracking the very foundations of the corrupted world. Keto stands firm, his eyes fixed on the encroaching shadows, his resolve unwavering. A moment of eerie calm before the storm. Keto surveys the scene, ready for whatever lies ahead. The sharp crack of bone against bone heralds the animation of the fallen foes. Alessandro cries out in disbelief and panic as the true nature of the trap is revealed. Panic flares in Alessandro's eyes. The overwhelming odds begin to take their toll. The darkness presses in, the air thick with an unseen menace. Keto's confident assessment proves true. The tide of the battle is turning, just as he predicted. The ethereal glow of the skeletons intensifies as they surge forward, a relentless tide of bone. Kazan observes the effectiveness of Keto's strategy, noting the immediate cessation of movement upon decapitation. Kazan's dry wit surfaces, even in the face of danger. A subtle correction to a misinterpretation. Kazan explains the fundamental nature of their adversaries, creatures of animated bone. Kazan elaborates on the unique resilience of the skeletons, their bones hardened by the dungeon's inherent mana, making them resistant to conventional attacks. The core weakness is revealed, the neck. Repeated blows are needed to sever the vertebrae and fell the undead. Beyond mere severance, the sheer impossibility of pulverizing the skull emphasizes the skeleton's extraordinary resilience. Kazan's awe is palpable. Keto's strength surpasses even his initial estimations. The chaos of battle unfolds in the suffocating darkness. A silent question hangs in the air, born of Keto's prodigious power. Is he truly human? Alessandro hesitates, his mind struggling to comprehend the events unfolding before him. The chilling clatter of bones echoes through the dungeon as the skeletons advance, an army of the dead. Hayes and Alessandro steel themselves, the weight of the battle pressing down on them. With a grim resolve, Keto prepares for the next onslaught, ready to face the horrors that await. Keto, the ashen barbarian, flashes a confident, almost predatory grin. The entrance to the dungeon looms, unnaturally bright. Hayes, the cleric of Kaloja, the god of lies, gasps with nervous excitement, her eyes wide. Her faith compels her to embrace the unknown, even if it chills her to the bone. The uneasy alliance begins to take shape. Keto, Alessandro, Kazan, and Hayes stand together, their individual motivations a complex tapestry of distrust and desperation. Alessandro questions Keto's urgency, his lost holy power a constant shadow, making him cautious and unwilling to rush into peril. Hayes, caught between her fear and her duty, offers a hesitant affirmation, her smile strained. Hayes, trembling, whispers her fear of dying within the oppressive confines of the dungeon. A heavy, guttural sound echoes from the darkness, signaling the unsettling nature of this place. Another ominous sound, a precursor to the horrors that await them. A moment of tense silence hangs heavy in the air, anticipation building with each passing second. A faint, dry rattling emanates from the shadows, the sound of ancient bones stirring. Kazan, sensing a growing unease, warns Keto to halt, his instincts screaming danger. The party stands at a precipice, the air thick with foreboding. Alessandro's grip tightens on his shield, a stark contrast to his lost divine might. The chilling clatter of bone intensifies, a symphony of the undead rising to meet them. A skeleton's skull tumbles to the ground, a grim testament to the fallen that now animate before them. The dungeon's interior is revealed to be a graveyard of past failures, a trap laid for unsuspecting adventurers. Hayes gasps in terror as the reanimated corpses reveal themselves. As skeletons. Kazan, his eyes sharp, observes the immediate threat, a grim realization dawning. Alessandro braces himself, his gaze fixed on the approaching horrors. This time. They're coming. Keto, a strange glint in his eyes, poses a question, hinting at his unconventional approach. Alessandro, his brow furrowed in confusion, responds with a bewildered, "Huh?" Keto declares his intention to face the skeletal horde alone, eager to test a new, unproven strategy. The foundations of the dungeon tremble as Keto unleashes a devastating, earth-shattering blow, cracking the very stone beneath their feet. Alessandro and Hayes, awestruck and slightly terrified by Keto's raw power, quickly agree to his bold proposal. With a curt nod, Keto expresses his gratitude for their assent, a predatory smile returning to his lips. Keto's eyes blaze with an unnatural, spectral light as the skeletons surge forward, their empty sockets glowing with malevolent intent. He stands ready to face them, the thrill of battle evident. A skeletal hand grips a glowing sword, its bones clicking ominously as it prepares to strike. The cavernous dungeon entrance, unnaturally illuminated, beckons them forward. Alessandro and Hayes exchange worried glances, questioning Keto's unconventional approach. A sharp, tearing sound echoes through the dungeon as more undead rise. Keto's gaze is fixed on the skeletal foe, an unnerving curiosity in his eyes. Keto's powerful frame is poised, radiating raw, untamed energy. The skeleton lunges, its rusted sword a blur of motion. Dust and debris fly as Keto's immense power shatters the very ground beneath him. The ethereal glow of the skeleton's eye sockets intensifies, a chilling sight. The sound of bone scraping against bone, a prelude to combat. Keto's massive form blocks out the light, a silhouette of impending destruction. The skeletons, their forms eerily pristine despite their undeath, prepare to engage. Kazan Hark's voice, laced with apprehension, challenges Ketel's lone wolf strategy. A swift, brutal blow connects, the impact echoing through the cavern. Ketel's muscles strain as he deflects a skeletal attack with sheer force. A sharp impact as Ketel's weapon clashes against bone and steel. A grunt of exertion from Ketel as he parries a desperate lunge. Alessandro, his holy power gone, watches Ketel with a mixture of fear and awe. The dungeon walls tremble under the sheer force of Ketel's power. A decisive strike, the sharp crack of bone as Ketel's power is unleashed. Ketel's eyes gleam with the primal ferocity, a predator in his element. The shattering of bone and the splintering of ancient stone mark Ketel's assault. Ketel, a predatory grin splitting his face, challenges the horde. The violent cacophony of combat erupts as Ketel unleashes his fury. The deafening clash of metal on bone signals Ketel's overwhelming offensive. The unnatural luminescence of the corrupted dungeon begins to coalesce, a faint crackling sound emanating from Ketel's clenched fist as he prepares his assault. Confusion and unease ripple through Alessandro and Hayes, their eyes scanning the unnervingly lit depths. From the encroaching darkness, animated skeletons, their forms ragged and corrupted, begin to rise, their hollow sockets fixing on the intruders. A sharp, bone-chilling crack echoes as a skeleton lunges forward, its movements surprisingly swift. The clang of bone against bone as a skeleton's limb strikes an unseen obstacle. Ketel moves with a blur of speed, his greatsword a gleaming arc through the dim light, a swift, whistling slice. The sharp impact of Ketel's sword meeting bone. Ketel's companions recoil as the skeletal horde advances, their apprehension palpable. A guttural roar, a primal sound of savage intent, erupts from Ketel as he charges the skeletal ranks. Ketel's taunting words slice through the din of combat, so you know how to switch it to your other hand? Alessandro and Hayes watch, a mixture of awe and terror etched on their faces, as Ketel unleashes his devastating power. The sickening sound of Ketel's weapon shattering bone. The earth trembles beneath the force of Ketel's strike, the dungeon's foundations groaning under the strain. Bone fragments explode outward with a percussive strike and a sharp cracking sound as Ketel's assault continues. The sound of a skeletal limb, perhaps a hand, searching and grasping in the gloom. A vicious, sharp impact as Ketel's blade connects with a skeleton's reinforced bone structure. A skeleton stumbles, its skeletal frame swaying precariously from a powerful blow. The jarring thud of a heavy impact as Ketel's strike lands with crushing force. Ketel's eyes gleam with a predatory light, relishing the brutal dance of combat. A swift, slicing sound as Ketel's weapon cuts through the air, a blur of deadly motion. A sharp, tearing sound as Ketel's blade rips through corrupted bone. The skeletal warriors exhibit an unnerving ability to adapt, a chilling testament to their mana-hardened resilience. Ketel's confident expression widens into a fierce grin, acknowledging the surprising adaptability of his foes. The sharp, percussive sounds of impact and shattering bone as Ketel dominates the fray. Kazan's observation, IT can even substitute parts. IT's intelligence is quite high, rings true as Ketel confronts this disturbing adaptation. A guttural roar erupts from Ketel, a primal challenge against the rising dead. Hayes recoils, overcome by sheer terror. The unnatural resilience of the skeletal legion chills him to the bone. Alessandro grunts, his stoic facade cracking under the weight of the impossible. Alessandro stares, disbelief warring with growing dread as Ketel plunges into the horde. Kazan observes with grim understanding. Alessandro whispers in astonishment, grappling with the sheer, untamed power of the ashen barbarian. A sickening crack echoes. Ketel's greatsword finds its mark, splintering bone with brutal efficiency. Amidst the shattered remains of his foes, Ketel stands triumphant, a chilling embodiment of raw, primal force. Alessandro's awe solidifies into a grudging recognition. This is no mere warrior, this is a true barbarian. A chilling crackle echoes through the darkness as the trap springs shut. Startled cries erupt as mana-hardened skeletons materialize, their joints grinding ominously. A single skull drops, inert but unsettling. The skeletons stir, their bony limbs clattering with unnatural life. Kazan Hark observes, his voice sharp with tactical assessment. So it can move with only its head. Ketel, fueled by a primal urge, lets out a guttural growl, preparing to unleash his fury. The air crackles with anticipation. Ketel charges, a whirlwind of raw power. Ketel's eyes glow with savage intensity. Amusing. Manga title text. Manga credits. A new figure appears, his tone apologetic. Have I kept you waiting long? My apologies for the delay. Ketel lets out a defiant roar, his primal power surging. Alessandro, caught off guard by Ketel's overwhelming presence, meekly replies, "Not at all, sir. Please, take all the time you need." Ketel grunts, "My thanks." The battle has concluded, leaving Ketel victorious amidst shattered bone and lingering mana. Ketel's gaze sharpens as the new arrival speaks. "Well then." A subtle shift in the air. A sense of unease settles as the figure moves. Let us depart once more. Alessandro, along with the others, stammers in agreement, a mix of fear and respect on their faces. Why yes, sir. The oppressive silence of the dungeon returns, amplifying the tension. The party halts, a moment of apprehension before the next descent. The weight of their journey presses down on them. The group begins to move, guided by the mysterious newcomer. Alessandro voices the unsettling atmosphere. This place. The newcomers stand at the precipice of the next challenge. The second floor. A deep, resonant groan emanates from below, signaling their descent. Go. Oh. The oppressive silence of the corrupted world is broken only by the echoing footsteps as the party descends. A tense anticipation hangs in the air as the group ventures deeper. The darkness of Gehentra envelopes the party, the air thick with an unsettling stillness. A chilling whisper, like the scraping of bone, emanates from the depths. A low, guttural groan echoes from below, a grim promise of the trials to come. Alessandro Tyrannus, his gaze troubled, proposes a moment of respite. A sharp click echoes as Kazan Hark shifts his weight, his own weariness evident. Kazan Hark ponders the unsettling proximity of this dungeon. Kazan Hark readily agrees. Indeed, that would be for the best. Thank you. A sudden surge of panic overtakes the usually stoic Kazan Hark. The brief lull in their journey allows for a moment of shared unease. Kazan Hark's mind races with the implications of their current location. Kazan Hark fidgets, the unspoken concern bubbling to the surface. Kazan Hark finally voices his apprehension. I have something to ask regarding this dungeon. Ketel's gaze sharpens, acknowledging Kazan's unspoken question. Yes? A subtle shift in Ketel's posture signals his readiness to answer. Ketel, with a rare display of vulnerability, admits his knowledge is incomplete. It is embarrassing, but my learning on this matter is insufficient. Hayes, her faith unwavering, offers encouragement. No. A desire to learn is a virtue. I am not terribly knowledgeable myself, but I am grateful. A soft sigh escapes Hayes, a testament to her earnestness. Ketel, his eyes fixed on Kazan, prompts him to continue. What is it you are curious about? Kazan Hark, his brow furrowed, states the crux of his worry. This dungeon is located rather close to the territory. Kazan Hark poses his direct question, his concern palpable. Kazan Hark elaborates on his query, his gaze fixed on Ketel. Ketel begins his measured response. Generally. Ketel concludes his explanation with a grim caveat. Generally, monsters from a dungeon do not venture outside. Although, there are exceptions. Alessandro's gaze lingered on the cleric's serene countenance, recalling the assurance that such potential threats were preemptively managed. Kazan cleared his throat, the sound a small interruption in the descent, drawing the cleric's attention. Silence hung heavy, the air thick with unspoken thoughts as the group pressed onward. The cleric gestured towards the oppressive architecture, her voice calm. Dungeons are a natural phenomenon. They often manifest as caves. She continued, a strange image flickering into existence, a stark contrast to the subterranean passage. And at other times, they appear as towers. Her explanation continued, the cleric's gaze distant, as if observing something far beyond their current predicament. The majority of dungeons manifest near densely populated areas. So that is why this one appeared here. Kazan grunted, his brow furrowed with unease, the cleric's words doing little to assuage his apprehension. When a dungeon manifests, the local lord assesses the danger level, and then outsiders like ourselves, mercenaries, or guards are dispatched to clear it. Kazan's eyes narrowed slightly. Oh? They do not manifest inside the territory? The cleric nodded, her expression earnest. Correct. They always appear at a certain distance. Alessandro's contemplative silence suggested he was processing this new information. Kazan's initial apprehension shifted to calculation. As for these dungeons, I presume there's a reward for a successful conquest? The cleric's gaze drifted towards the shimmering remnants of the battle, the fallen skeletons leaving a faint magical residue. Correct, she affirmed. There is usually a boss on the final floor. You receive various rewards. Her gaze swept over the party, then settled on the unseen depths of the dungeon. Various rewards for defeating it. For a dungeon of this size. A subtle shift in the cleric's demeanor, a contemplative hum. The rewards should be quite substantial. Ketel's voice, a low rumble, interrupted the exchange. Just like the game. Alessandro, caught off guard, questioned, the game? Ketel waved a dismissive hand, his focus elsewhere. I was talking to myself. Ketel's gaze shifted from the cleric to the oppressive surroundings. I have one more thing I am curious about. The cleric, taken aback by Ketel's directness, responded with a nervous flutter. Why yes, please ask. Ketel's eyes, sharp and piercing, fixed on the cleric. Who is it that makes these dungeons? The cleric's eyes widened, her innocent facade momentarily shattering under Ketel's unnerving question. Sir? Her voice was hesitant, almost bewildered. Dungeons occur naturally. No one creates them. A flicker of unease crossed the cleric's face, her faith tested by the implication of Ketel's question and the mysterious origin of the dungeons. A disembodied hand, adorned with glowing red strings, manipulates unseen forces, its touch suggesting a sinister puppeteer. Silhouettes of unsuspecting individuals are drawn towards a gleaming apple, enticed by the allure of the unknown, a stark contrast to the menacing snake coiled beneath. The serpent's head emerges, its gaze fixed and unblinking, symbolizing the predatory nature of these phenomena. Ketel observes the surroundings, his expression sharp and analytical, a silent question forming in his mind. Ketel voices his suspicion, for a natural phenomenon, it feels far too deliberate. Hayes gasps, her worldview beginning to fracture. Hayes clutches her chest, a look of dawning realization mixed with fear on her face, her faith in the natural order shaken. Hayes reflects, it was such a given that I never even thought to question it. Alessandro, the disgraced paladin, watches Ketel with a mixture of bewilderment and growing suspicion, noting the barbarian's uncharacteristic intelligence. Alessandro muses, I never even doubted it. It was simply the natural order, a truth of our world. Alessandro questions Ketel's sharp intellect, is this barbarian questioning that very truth? Barbarians are, by all accounts, an ignorant and savage people. Kazan Hark, ever the pragmatist, remains observant, his attention focused on the unfolding dynamics within the group. Alessandro's internal monologue continues, cruel beings, devoid of blood or tears. Ketel acknowledges the common perception, that much is true. But if everything I know is correct? Alessandro's gaze intensifies, a profound question forming, is this man, truly a typical barbarian? Ketel's eyes flash with an ethereal purple light, a flicker of power that draws Alessandro's intrigued, yet suspicious, attention. Ketel addresses the group, his tone decisive, everyone. Ketel inquires, have you rested enough? Hayes, startled, confirms her readiness, while Alessandro and Kazan react to Ketel's abrupt shift in demeanor. Hayes responds, why yes. Ketel, with a confident smirk, declares, well then. Let us depart once more. The party begins their descent, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. Kazan, ever vigilant, acknowledges the call to continue, a subtle tension in his posture. The crystalline formations of the dungeon glitter ominously, casting strange shadows as the party ventures deeper. The group moves forward, a unified front despite their individual uncertainties, the weight of the unknown pressing down on them. Their determined footsteps mark their progress into the eerie, crystal-adorned depths of the dungeon. The party descends further into the unknown, the oppressive silence broken only by the distant echoes of their progress. A heavy footstep echoes, punctuated by a sudden halt. A sense of confusion washes over the scene. Alessandro's eyes widen in a mixture of shock and apprehension, his gaze fixed on something unseen. A resonant thud signifies the discovery of something significant. Alessandro, what is that? Hayes, a treasure chest. It is one of the rewards of the maze. Ketel moves with a fluid, predatory grace, his attention drawn to the newly found object. Ketel, you may have it, provided you can unlock it. Kazan, inner thought, that's easy for him to say, but to unlock a chest of this quality, you'd need a master rogue with proven lock-picking skills. Kazan's internal monologue continues, highlighting the disparity between the task and his perceived abilities. Kazan, inner thought, but a rogue of that caliber would have no business being in a dungeon like this. It's a shame, but I suppose we'll have to abandon this. Kazan. I'll ask you to unlock it. Kazan's brow furrows, a silent question forming in his mind. Alessandro, the hell? That is a treasure chest. Ketel, and you are a rogue. Kazan, stuttering well. Yes, I suppose that's true, but... Ketel, is it not the role of the rogue to handle treasure chests? Therefore, I am asking. Ketel, inner thought, I can't believe I'll get to see a rogue's skills up close. Alessandro's contemplative expression suggests he sees the logic in Ketel's statement. Kazan's internal struggle is evident as he acknowledges the truth, yet foresees a complication. Kazan, inner thought, if I could actually do that, I wouldn't be in this situation. A nervous tremor passes through Kazan as he grapples with his impending failure. Kazan, inner thought, a bottom feeder like me who isn't even acknowledged by the guild. Has no business knowing how to pick locks. A surge of panic and distress emanates from Kazan. He desperately wishes to avoid telling Ketel the truth. Kazan's eyes dart to Ketel, focusing on the barbarian's expectant gaze, a look that amplifies his dread. Kazan, inner thought, if I'm honest, it'll instantly turn to disappointment. Ketel's voice, cold and sharp, cuts through the tension. You call yourself a rogue, yet you can't even do that? Ketel's pronouncement, delivered with chilling finality, you're useless. A faint shimmer of purple light emanates from him. The air grows heavy with Ketel's disdain. The party members react to the harsh judgment, the silence amplifying the tension. Kazan recoils, his spirit visibly crushed by Ketel's words. Tears well in his eyes as the full weight of his inadequacy crashes down on him. Kazan, his bravado strained, accepts Ketel's challenge. Ha, ha, ha. Well then, I'll give it a shot. Silence hangs heavy, the air thick with anticipation and Kazan's growing dread. The sound of the chest's intricate lock mechanism. A sharp, metallic click. Kazan's eyes dart between the lock and Ketel's imposing figure. Oh? So that is the equipment used for lock-picking. How curious. He's staring right through me from behind. Kazan's internal monologue, fear consuming him. If I fail this, I'm not getting out of here alive. A desperate plea to his own failing memory. Remember. Come on, remember. Remember the skills you saw while working as their porter. The sound of Kazan fumbling with the lock, a series of scraping noises. The lock continues to resist, each failed attempt amplifying Kazan's desperation. Another click, a hint of progress, but Kazan's internal struggle persists. Remember. A sharp, pained gasp escapes Kazan as the lock mechanism shifts. The scraping intensifies. Ketel's eyes flare with an ethereal purple light, the word annihilator manifesting around him as the energy crackles. Driven to his limit, Kazan makes a desperate vow, his resolve hardening. I have to risk my life.